Hello and welcome to the Overton Audios podcast. My name's Connor Chadwick.
And I'm Eamon Longman. And today on the podcast, I interviewed James Sutton on Torchwood Nexus.
And I resume the Big Finish discussion segment with George Guidera as we talk about something that Big Finish in the last month. And of course, special thanks to our Patreons, Anya Coyle, Peter Scott, TT Productions 23, Chelsea Lagan, Delta Effects, and Joe Eddings. How have you been, Eamon?
I'm good. I'm good. Today is the last day in a 7-day working week for me.
Oh yes.
So today I will after work I'm going to stop off and I'm going to grab some butter chicken. My butter chicken place has been closed for a goddamn month. Those dickheads.
Why?
I don't know. I think they went on holiday or something. I called them at the end of January. I was like, I'll go get some butter chicken. And I called the number to place my order. And they're like, hello, we're away until the 22nd of February. And I was like, you assholes. How am I supposed to get butter chicken now? You just go into any other butter chicken place, but I don't want to. So I'm going to go get butter chicken today. And I might go buy some aviation gin. So I want to know what that tastes like.
Have some chicken and gin, basically, is the plan.
Yeah. Chicken and gin. And then tomorrow I'm going to go get takeaways from a restaurant. Went to dinner with my mum the other day, and we went to a restaurant called Lone Star, and they made a chicken meal that I think is the nicest thing I've ever eaten in my life. So I want that again.
Oh, that's good, sir.
How about you? How have you been?
Oh, well, I've obviously had my little month off, didn't I?
Yeah, you weren't here last month. It was just me.
No,
my mum wasn't aware of that.
Your mum, wasn't she?
No, I said, and if you're listening to this, hello, mother. I said to her, have you listened to the podcast? And she went, very, very long. I try. But I normally get distracted. And I went, interesting. Did you notice how last month, however, was just me? And she went, no, I thought Connor was there. And I went, didn't listen to last month's at all, did you? She went, no. And I went, okay, cool. So, if you're listening to this one this month, mother, hello. If you're not, useless piece of story. How was your month off, Connor?
It was all right. It was all right. Well, technically, it's not even been a month yet as of recording this. It was just like it's like you said in the podcast. It was just a massive burnout I had. It was a mixture of things, like work. At that point, I think leading up to the burnout, I was on site like 3 or 4 days a week and not able to, and then I was being asked to do the same amount of work on top of these extra days. It just wasn't working. And then of course we had our little Cardiff getaway at the end of January, and that was really, really nice. That went really, really nicely. And then it was just like bits and pieces, really, and I just had a massive burnout. I've had a lot of reevaluation on how we're going to make Overton Audios moving forward, which I'm still trying to sort out all the details for, but it will be changing from 2024 onwards. There won't be anything as strict in the schedule anymore, and I just want to make sure that
more Torchwood.
Yeah, I just want to make sure things are healthy, for me as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, but no, I'm back here, and I'm very well. I'm very well.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Have you been working on any projects, I suppose, or have you just been mainly working?
Well, I'm writing quite a bit with Sutton on Torchwood. Oh, yeah. We do mention in the segment that we are working on volume 3.
Yeah.
And then he went, I wonder if that's allowed to be said. And then he went,
yeah,
screw up, it's being said. He went, everyone will figure it out by the end of volume 2 anyway, that's not the end. So yeah, volume 3. So Son and I are currently co-writing an episode for that. But he's gone up north, so I must finish that by myself.
Awesome.
And then I'm editing Kiwi Doctor stuff as well. I figured I should probably get a start on that. But yeah,
I did.
what about you, sir?
I don't know, I've had a bit of writer's block. I've been doing quite a bit more editing, in all fairness. I've kind of reevaluated again. Other things is I've changed the editing software that I edit the audios in now. I don't edit them in Premiere Pro anymore. I'm editing them in Adobe Audition, which is much, much better. The only thing I'm not really a massive fan of is the fact that when you're going to import something, it doesn't allow you to have folders. So everything's just one long stream of information. You're just like, why?
Yeah.
Chadder's wishes for better things, but that is one of the many things. But no, it's been good. The recent audiobooks that have come out for Doctor Who Resurrection, Remembrance 3, they were all edited on Audition. And I was worried that people might see the difference or something like that. I was worried that it might seem a bit jarring because I've obviously made some stuff in advance on Premiere Pro, but it sounded all right, to be honest, and it's looking all good, I think. Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah,
they're pretty good.
But as you were just saying as well about Torchwood, yes, Torchwood Volume 3 is in the works. Of course, it was going to be. I never don't really end things on 2 volumes usually, unless it's specifically aimed at being a 2-parter.
Unless it's General Marshal Veritas or those 2 things,
or Dark Universe 2.
Dark Universe 2. That's another thing. Well, Dark Universe in general. Dark Universe 2 wasn't 2 volumes. That was just 1 volume.
Very good.
Yes. Thank you.
Right. Well, as you mentioned Torchwood, we might as well go over to the segment where you and Sutton are talking about Torchwood Nexus.
Let's go talk about Torchwood Nexus for an hour and a half.
It wasn't an hour and a half, was it?
Overton Audios presents.
How do you know my name? Who are you?
Did you fall and hit your head or something? It's me, Jack Fields.
I hope you have a really amazing life, full of everything you could ever want.
So who are you then?
I am Spartacus.
All I have to do is poke this little blob, and it would spray its gas
Yeah,
all over.
I know how this shit works.
And you're my responsibility. You endangered the team tonight.
I'm sorry.
But you answer to me. Understand?
But I've got to get back to my home. This isn't my world. I need to see my brother again.
People are dying. We need to stop this.
Can't your conscience handle
You're
it?
starting to sound like the old Fraser.
So you guys fucked and the whole world nearly ended. That's hardcore.
I appreciate the gesture, but have you actually got a plan, or are we just going to die together?
I'll be honest, I didn't really think it through. I just kind of did it.
And they say romance is dead.
It bloody will be in a minute.
I am the Knowledge. I am here to help.
Knowledge?
It appears you have a double agent in your organization.
It was you. It's always been you.
Lizzie!
Torchwood Nexus. Coming the 11th of March 2023 at 12 p.m.
And welcome back to the podcast. I'm here with James Sutton. Hello, James.
Hello.
How are
you? I'm good, thanks.
Yes.
I'm just vibing on this fine Sunday morning.
Oh yeah, it's morning for you. I keep forgetting.
Yes, it is.
I always forget. I sit here
Yeah.
and I go, well, it's nighttime for you because it's nighttime for me, but it's not.
Nope, sun is up. It's 8:30 in the morning. All is well with the world.
Yeah, I keep talking to Connor as if as if our times are just the same. So like I messaged Connor the other day and I went, I'll be recording with Sutton tomorrow night, and he went, tomorrow night for me, and I went, no, tomorrow night for me. I was like, but it's all working. It's all working out. I figured. I get it. I get confused a lot with time, but it's fine. It's not like
I just get confused a lot, to be fair, in general.
Oh yeah, no, it's fair. It's not like we write anything.
No.
So it's March. Torchwood Nexus is out.
Is this when this is coming out? This
At
the moment it isn't.
This is the March podcast, so this will be out really like the first week of March or some fucking shit. Have fun with
First
that.
week of March, Torchwood's still not out though, isn't it? I thought it came out on the 11th.
Yeah, but I think that that's when this podcast comes out. So I'm just saying, it's coming out.
Okay, but if we record the entire
March is when-
podcast and we talk about spoilers because we
We're
think
not-
it's out,
We're
and then
not
it
talking
turns
about
out-
spoilers. I literally before this said don't talk about spoilers. We had like a whole fucking conversation about don't spoil the volume, otherwise Connor will castrate us both. He'll fly across the globe and personally stab me.
Come on, microphone, come back to me. It broke for a second.
Oh no.
It's a loose connection in the back. It's all right. It's all right. I'll live.
you'll
If you ever
be
hear the Torchwood audios and suddenly there's like, it's the microphone is broken halfway through the recording and I've not noticed.
Well, at least we know to blame you for that, not Connor.
I'd blame Blue, the snowball people. But yes, you have questions for me?
I do have questions. So
in my effort not to make this one of my ADHD tangents that lasts 2 hours long.
Yeah,
and everyone's like,
and
oh,
I
God,
don't
what?
see, and I don't write questions. I tried to write questions once, and I wrote like 8 questions, and it was when I interviewed Connor for Earthbound, and I asked him one question, and then he went on like a 20-minute rant, and then he went back and went, "So your questions, sir?" And I went, "Just fucking answered all of them." You answered every single one of them while you did that. And he went, "Oh," so we had like a little off thing where he went, "Why don't you ask me who the villains in the first episode are?" Which by now people know were the Daleks. And he went, "Oh, why don't you ask me who the villains are?" And I went, "Have you not revealed that?" And he went, "No, I haven't revealed that, but you can ask me." And I said, "Okay." So I asked him and he went, "I won't tell you." And I went, I was like on the podcast, I was like, "So like, you haven't revealed who the villains of the first episode are." And he went, "Yes, and I still won't." I went, "Connor, no, you told me to ask you that one." And then after the recording, I went, "Connor, fuck you." Make me look like really incompetent on the call.
Podcast. Is it a family-friendly podcast?
I have no idea. I think I've sworn about 7 times so far in this one segment. My mum will be livid if she gets
what will Elaine think, or whatever her name is.
Lorette. But
I was close.
You were very close. But she'll be livid if she makes it this far. And I said to her the other day, "Have you listened to the podcast lately?" And she went, I try, but it's long. It's very long." And I went,
"Tries my patience."
I went, "Oh, but you noticed how last month's one was just me talking?" And she went, "No,
I especially noticed that one."
She went, "No, Connor was there for that one." I went, "Then you haven't listened to any of the last month's one." She went, "Oh, then no, I haven't listened to it for a while." And I was like, "Thanks, Mum. Great help."
No, it's all right. I mean, if it's any consolation, my mother wouldn't watch these.
Oh, that's fair. So if it's any consolation to anyone, my father doesn't probably know how old I am.
He went out to the shops and he hasn't returned.
Pretty much.
It's
Depression.
the Ethan Payne story. Right, okay.
So Torchwood Nexus is coming out this month.
Oh yeah, Torchwood Nexus.
Yeah. That's a thing that's happening this month. Tell us about the volume. What can you tell us?
Oh, it's a very good question, Eamon Longmorn.
Yeah.
Let's
What can you tell us that won't
see.
get Connor to run over to your house with a knife in hand?
So I think it's all right because I think he said this on like the when the poster was put up of the kind of volume poster, the artwork at least. It takes place moments after Volume 1, where Volume 1 ends. This picks up straight from basically. It's almost like Volume 1 Part 2, effectively. Less so a sort of disconnected thing, very much the same sort of story being told. Typically, as I've started saying, that someone has flushed a toilet in my house. So if you hear the sound of rushing water, that is just my pipes doing their job.
I can't hear it currently, so I think we're good.
Okay, good then.
Connor can just add in that in the sound effect.
Oh my God, a tsunami!
Oh no, there's a fire breaking out in my house. Connor, add the sound effect.
Oh God! Oh no, there's a fire! Oh my God, there's a tornado! It's the wind! It's rushing!
Oh shit! It's a Dalek.
Just not going to add in any of these. We sound insane.
It's gonna cut to him instead, just going no.
Oh, Oh dear. Oh no. No, I won't. I don't think I will.
I won't do this. Keep talking, you two,
Yeah.
and then it'll come back to us, still not fucking discussing this volume.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Let's focus. It
Let's
takes
do
place
this.
moments after Volume 1 has ended, and acts as sort of part 2 on top of that. So effectively, Volume 1 will become almost 8 episodes long. I think I'm allowed to say there's 8. Well, there's not 8 episodes in this series. There's 4 episodes in this series. That's fine. That's just facts. And so we'll basically be exploring more of the whole sort of Nexus idea that was put forward in the first volume, sort of uncovering some of the mysteries of that and sort of delving into that a little bit more. And besides that, we're just gonna sort of look at the sort of dynamic of the team, the relationships, the sort of work politics and love and romance and all kinds of stuff is going to be sort of looked into, mixed in with a little bit more of a sort of this volume is slightly erring more onto the sort of Monster of the Week style story, as opposed to Volume 1, which was a bit more sort of Children of Earth, kind of one story in one. This one's a little bit more sort of moving towards being a different sort of thing each episode. So that's something interesting to look forward to, I suppose.
Brilliant. And kind of leads quite nicely into another one of my questions. The format of this one is Monster of the Week kind of stuff. So how do you think that allows for the characters to kind of evolve in different ways than they were able to in Volume 1?
So with Volume 1, despite there being 4 episodes, the story is all set in the same place, the same story and everything, and so it doesn't actually take place over a long period of time. With that volume, it was very much a case of Lizzie joined the team, and then they immediately go off to Tiptree, where Tommy's already been for a little bit, and then they're there for about. They're not there for very long. Like, they kind of arrive overnight, and then I think maybe 2 days at most. And then possibly at the end, there's a little bit of a jump between the very end of the thing, but it's still very much a case of it was one solid story, and it wasn't actually that long they were together. So the Monster of the Week format allows for it to basically go from having to tell all of that in a condensed space. Like, I think Children of Earth literally takes place over 5 days. Whereas in this case, with what we've done here, there's very much a clear sort of like, oh, that was like 2 weeks ago. So it allows us to off screen have these relationships develop in the sort of gaps between each episode, and then have it pick back up again in the next episode without having to show it too much. But there's still an element of, if they had an argument 2 weeks ago, in the next episode they could still be having a sort of disagreement about that, or so we don't have to show all of the things, we just kind of tell it. And I think that allows a lot for character development and relationships and sort of things to bloom more so than in the sort of single format, because of the fact that we can allow more time to be between it effectively. Because I don't know, if a character's like as I said, if characters having like an argument in like the first episode, by the final episode it could have been 10 months since that first episode, and they could be in a completely different place, and that's where it allows for this bigger spectrum of things to go on. Whereas in the sort of single format of sort of Volume 1, it was very much a case of introducing the team, showing them off in their sort of different dynamics, and throwing them into an adventure together and sort of developing it from there. Whereas this is now, we've got the team, and how do we show them developing over the best sort of span effectively? So yeah. I think I don't want to go too much into it. I start just telling you plot points, and I'm like trying not to tell you plot points. But
it's hard because we spend most of our time on Zoom calls just coming up with Torchwood plot lines. So for us,
so what I'm going to say anyway.
So for us two to be the two who are told to do a podcast segment where we're not allowed to mention any Torchwood plot lines is insane.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Should have
It's
just got
very
Connor
risky.
and Ben to do it.
Ben would be like, am I in Torchwood? Yeah, I think so. Was I? Because to be fair, the way Ben records like he'll record every episode in one night. I will get him on Zoom, or I'll get him on like usually like a Facebook call, messenger style thing, and then he'll record them all as a voice note on his phone. in one go, and we'll just sit down for hours and get all these scripts in sort of segment, and then he'll be like, "Cool, see you next time," and then it kind of goes around from there. So it's not much. He's not got much involvement actually in it besides him recording. Like I run plot points past him, and he goes, "Sick, sounds nice," But like he's a very busy boy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Very nice. So,
Question 3.
what would you say in this volume Fraser's biggest challenges? Spoilers.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you more. I'm gonna give you more character-focused questions for a little bit. I've got one on pretty much everyone except for fucking Chris. Chris just doesn't get a question.
I think his biggest challenge is there's two that I could say that are quite funny, and when you see them you'll find them funny. I think his biggest challenge is finding the missing floor. Which isn't too much of a spoiler, I don't think, because it could mean anything, and we won't go into it further.
Vague enough that no one's gonna know what it means.
But if they watch this and then they watch the thing, they'll go, "Oh,
that's what he meant."
Like, to be fair, it's a big challenge. Like I think it's something that's involved in like 2 episodes at least.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the other one was, other than that, was singing. So I won't go. That was more of a challenge for me.
The musical episode of Torchwood was a big one.
yeah, I just couldn't get that ragtime. Just couldn't hit it properly. Yeah, no, it's I keep thinking of ones as we're sort of going, because I'm like, I just kept putting him through the ringer. It's making cups of tea, or coffees or whatever. But yeah, all right. We'll pull away from Fraser. Come on, get away from it before I keep talking.
At the end of the last volume, we see Lizzie and Fraser go further. So how would you say their dynamic evolves within this volume?
Ooh, go further was actually the words written on the script for me by Connor Chadwick in an almost Shakespearean way. The end of the script ended with Lizzie and Fraser go further. And then I was listening to it, and suddenly there's just a zip noise. I was like, "Oh, all right."
They definitely went further. I think that's managed to sneak its way into nearly every single Torchwood script.
Yeah, people, you won't see this, but we put it in as a running joke that anytime we have to refer to there's such an act of passionate lovemaking, it's just the phrase "they go further" is sort of shoved in there. Their dynamic sort of evolves from being very much in the first volume. She's the new girl. Fraser's sort of bringing her in and is wanting to sort of show her the ropes, kind of thing. But he's also got very strong principles about things, from that conversation he has with Stevenson about how he wants to be better than the old Torchwood, and that no, of course, Colonel, I wouldn't, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously, like 4 episodes later, apparently he would. And so effectively, as we pick up basically right after we leave off, you can imagine what the first sort of few minutes of episode 1 will be like. But their dynamic changes throughout the volume as they try to find out what they are to each other. Like, I don't want to go too in depth on what is going on, but effectively from the end of the last volume, it's a case of what did that mean? What's its sort of consequences? Did it mean anything at all? Or was it a case of like, this is the start of something? And so they're kind of trying to sort of process what had happened and answer all of these kind of questions, and whether it goes to anything or whether it doesn't is you'll have to find out, basically. But that's the kind of thing. But they do sort of find a sort of dependency on each other, that they kind of rely on each other quite a lot in this volume. So yeah, I think that is it. I don't want to go too far, if I'll spoil things.
Yeah, you don't want to go.
I feel like I skirted.
You don't want to go further
there, but
yeah.
I didn't want to go further. I didn't want to go there. I'm not wearing like a zip fly today, so I couldn't make that sound effect for you. I'm wearing buttons. So yeah,
Connor, add it in.
add in the exact file.
Just cuts to him going, no.
No.
He's gonna hate this. I can absolutely guarantee you he's not gonna listen to this, I don't think. He might. Hi Connor, if you're listening to this, hello. If he's not, however, because I know he just scans through.
If he's listening to this, then when he opens the next segment and does that thing where he goes back to it and goes, "Hello everyone, welcome back," I want him to say something silly, like something that's in like oh I know, I'll just get him to say that. Just silliness. I want him to say silliness when he gets to the next. If he's listened to this, and you viewers at home will know if he's listened to this, if silliness is the opening part of the next segment where Connor appears.
Yeah, so... that's how you will know at home if Connor Chadwick has listened to any of this. Because normally I know what he does, and he just goes through and he just removes any bits where people are completely silent.
So as long as we keep talking.
So as long as we keep talking, he's not actually going to look at this in depth because this is going to be long. It's you talking.
Well,
if anyone ever seen the A Talk with James Sutton, it's like 17 hours of them.
A Talk with began part 1 and 2, and then we came back for a third one at Christmas. Like I got a Christmas special. That's how
you
long
got invited back because he hadn't wasted enough time.
The community show I did with Jack Reeves. I was in the actual episode. There was the uncut interview. There was the uncut tour, and then there was the sort of special sequence, the skit we'd recorded. So that was 4 videos he got out of one day with me.
He really milked that. But I would milk you if I could.
Moo.
I love the fact that Connor is not going to know that.
Yeah, that's just
that on the Discord.
Oh no, Michael Cox is going to see this. Oh, not the lovely Michael Cox.
Hello, Spoon. Hello, Thomas. Please on the Discord screen record this exact point. If this has made it in, because we'll know Connor doesn't listen to this. And back so.
I'll get back to the questions.
Insulting Connor's work.
How have we done this for so long? Christ, come on, bring it back.
Okay. I think we already covered that fucking question.
Yeah, language, Timothy.
Yeah,
this podcast hasn't been written by Aidan O'Connor.
What show profanity? So there were a lot of changes in this volume. A lot of changes from the original concept. Because I came onto the project when this was when volume 1 was completely done pretty much, and volume 2 was being written. And I think I hopped on Zoom with you, and you were just like talking about Torchwood just non-stop for about 3 hours. And I messaged Connor and I went, I want to write for Torchwood. James really hyped that up. I want to be a part of that now. And so he went, okay, and he put me on it. So I was, and so a lot of it's changed since that original concept point. So like what do you think were some of the biggest changes, and how do you think that they kind of progressed the story in a way that the original concept of this volume didn't?
So basically there was the whole sort of when it was decided to form the Prism universe and everything like that. So effectively before that we had written like the opening of the volume. So there was 2 episodes originally that were meant to be the opener of this volume, which were just going to sort of pick up like months down the line. And we were going to explore more so the sort of blonde phrase so that we'd seen in some of the like the mini-sode. And some of the other appearances, basically, that we were gonna explore why Fraser had sort of dyed his hair blonde and what that was all about. And so effectively though, because of the sort of Prism universe being formed, it was then realized quickly that wouldn't really translate as well as it had originally been planned to. And so the big changes that have kind of happened in this volume is the fact that sort of the opener now is sort of following on from the whole kind of forming of this new universe. and I can't say too much because it will give away like the entire plot basically.
Yeah.
But that's the main. I can talk about the old episode that was meant to be there, and so the changes being from the fact that we were going to sort of show this sort of darker side of Fraser, dealing with the sort of aftermath of what he'd seen when he went down into the hole, basically into the Nexus point in Tiptree. But then it sort of evolved from there, and then episode 2 got completely rewritten. Episode 2 was meant to be a time loop episode, actually, which is kind of funny because as of right now recording this, Into the Time Loop just came out last night with Dom and Ben in and Meg and all that from the DW 2012 channel. So, but there was meant to be a time loop episode there. However, that's been scrapped now. But it did evolve. That idea has evolved later on. It's not a time loop anymore, but elements have been taken from it. So you'll find out more about that later on. But that's the main sort of changes, and how it sort of affected this volume is we kept most of the episodes the same, but now they've kind of had this new plot point worked into it, so that it tells this sort of story over time. And so yeah, that's the sort of main changes of the thing, really. Other than that, it's pretty much the sort of same thing, but I don't want to tell you too much because otherwise I'll just start telling you plot points.
Cool. I can remove that question then off my list. I think that's pretty much a very professional way of sorting that out.
Good.
Very well done. Of course, you mentioned DW 2012. And so there are 2 Tommy Bentons running around in the fan community. The one with the Purple Doctor and Meg, and then the one with this kind of Torchwood team. So in what way do you think that those 2 Tommies are different from one another?
Well, it's interesting because the Tommy Benton that's running around with the DW 2012 lot. So effectively, so the ones we've got is in Prism, and he's often a separate sort of, the Prism universe is separate to the DW 2012 universe, so they're immediately not the same, version. It's not like this is, because originally when we started writing this, the idea was that the Tommy we see in R1, because it was 2014 was where this is set, it was set as a sort of prequel to Dom's series. The idea was that we would show him evolving into the one that then appears with the Purple Doctor. But after that kind of divide where we went into 2 different universes and everything to sort of help with that, it allowed us a sort of a lot more freedom with the character. And so the main sort of differences I feel is that the Tommy Benton that's in DW 2012 was taken from a script I'd written in about 2016. So he's a very almost like a proto Tommy. He's a very early form of the Tommy Benton idea before he sort of got developed upon. And so the one in DW 2012 is a lot more sort of younger feeling in a weird way, because when I started writing that, we were genuinely younger. So he was written, and it was meant to come out in 2018 maybe. It was meant to come out like 5 years ago. So he's written about 5 years ago, basically, how that Tommy was written, whereas the one in Torchwood is written as I would write him now, which has a lot sort of more sort of and because he's a main character in Torchwood, like he is in Doctor Who as well, but he's more of a main character here in the same way, sort of like when Captain Jack pops up in Doctor Who, he's not, they don't focus on him, it's the Doctor you focus on, whereas in Torchwood it's Captain Jack's show. And so Tommy is in Torchwood, so we develop more so him and focus on him more as a main character, more so than in DW 2012, where they focus more so on the Doctor and Meg, and then Tommy can almost feel sort of more like a sort of Danny Pink sort of Rory Williams side character to the main companion. But I think that's the main sort of difference, is the fact that Tommy Benton came from an idea from about, well, at this point, like 7 years ago, whereas R1 has sort of evolved over time and is a sort of more developed form of him. And originally he was meant to be evolving into that Tommy Benton you see, but since the sort of split, and now we don't actually have to sort of match up to what is happening in that timeline, we can actually go further with him and take him to places that he wasn't going to go to before, effectively. So I think the main sort of difference is that basically, in a sort of long way round.
Very nice. Yes.
Mhm.
Well done. Yes. Other characters in this volume, of course, we have Chris.
Mhm.
We have Lizzie. But then we have Jack.
Yes.
Yeah. Who has a rather big change this season. This volume. I keep using season. I'm just used to talk about seasons. But in this volume, what can you tell us about Jack's change?
Jack grows as a person. No, so Jack takes on a more sort of crucial role. So originally he was a sort of side character to Lizzie. He was a bit more of a sort of PC Andy in a way, if Lizzie was sort of the Gwen Cooper style character. Whereas in this volume, he becomes a more of a focal plot point to sort of showcase some sort of changes between the storylines that's going on now. And so we then focus in on him a little bit more. We find out a little bit more of his backstory. And whilst he's not in it as much as he was, I mean, I think he was in it about the same as much as he was in the last volume. But in this volume, he's not just a case of showing up at sort of blockades and whatever. He's actually part of a sort of storyline and the arc, basically. But yeah, he's definitely he's not quite a different person, but he's almost a different person altogether.
Yeah.
But yes, that's I don't know how much I can say about Jack without just going into the exact plot lines, basically.
Yeah.
He's I think besides just going on those sort of surface level things, if you go sort of skin deep, then you'll notice more sort of changes.
Very nice.
But yeah. What's the next question?
The next question, I've got a few more, so we are going to go into another zone for Connor. So there are a lot of people involved in this series. We've got of course Connor plays various characters throughout. We've got Michelle who appears every now and again. Of course yourself. We've got Ben. We've got, I don't name people who are in this. There's a lot of people like Gaiden.
We got
Aidan O'Connor. We've got Kenna. Kenna's in it.
Kenna appears in it. We've got obviously Laurie. We've got you've popped up at points in it as well.
I pop up, yes.
We've got I think is it Matt Barrett's in it from TT Productions? I believe he appears in episode 3.
I think he's in it, yeah.
And so we got a bunch of cool people sort of popping up throughout. We really sort of pushed the boat out. Of course, Hugo's in it.
Yes.
We've really pushed the boat out with how many people we can cram in. I think Dom appears as well, of course.
Dom's in it,
and Matthew Case makes an appearance as well. And so we managed to really get everyone sort of inside the walls of Torchwood this time round. And so
is there anyone that you haven't got that you would like to get into it at some point?
Oh, I sorry, before I Michael Cox is also in it. I can't forget the lovely Michael Cox.
Michael Cox.
The lovely Michael Cox. People I'd like to get in that I haven't got in it yet.
Katie Manning.
Katie. Well, if we're going that far up, like David Tennant and stuff like that, but just like I want Eve Miles.
Let's just replace that absent friends audio with just one where it's David Tennant meeting Fraser and Tommy.
Do you know what? I died in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, I would.
Someone steal us that Big Finish script, and we'll get Elliot Crossley on it.
Oh yeah, we'll have to get some people from Big Finish on it. Elliot Crossley's actually one, to be fair. I wouldn't say no to having Elliot Cross. There's that guy on TikTok, Ben Kearns, I think his name is, the one who does the Matt Berry impression. Like, I don't even need him to do Matt Berry. I just think he's a really good voice actor. I think him. There's people like, Chris Walker Thompson and stuff like that. That will be, the obvious ones that haven't been in it. That will be good to sort of get in for a sort of cameo. Alia Itori might be, fun to have. She's quite good. I've been listening to her in Divergence. There was that one that just happened with Elliot Crossley and her and me and Michael Cox in it. And that was a really fun one. Ooh, I'm trying to think else. There's a lot of good people that I look at and I go, you're a good actor or actress, and you'd be really the dialogue would just flow so well with you. And there's just so much talent in this group of people that we kind of know. But I'd like at some point everyone to have appeared in it at some point.
Yeah.
That would be the lovely thing. Is if it was such a collaborative. Because the thing is though, I like writing in lots of characters. I don't like being limited by that. So like the more people we can get in, the better. And there's sort of roles that are made by people like I think it is Matt Barrett who is in episode 3 as the villain, and in that episode, that villain, it was very pivotal that villain was like played by someone who could carry that level of thing, because if it wasn't, he wouldn't be scary or whatever. So like you needed someone who could sort of do that, and I think I really hope it is Matt Barrett. Otherwise, I'm just completely blanking on who it actually is. But effectively, from when I've listened to that audio, I've just gone, that's so good. Like that's exactly what you wanted it to be. But yeah, no, Ian Harris would be good to get in. We don't think we've got him in. From TT.
Yes.
He was very good.
He wrote me an episode recently for Kiwi Doctor stuff. He's excellent.
He'd written Modus Operandi for the Dickensian Doctor, which we were in. We were in that episode, and that was really fun. But,
I really liked that. I think I messaged Abby like as soon as we finished it, going, "Get me in contact with him."
No, he's very good though. I'd like him. Jed as well, but I think we've got Jed coming up at some point.
We've got Jed, I think, locked in for something at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, man at desk. But yeah,
bloke at table.
So yeah, there's just a bunch of people that we haven't got in yet that would be good to get in. And if anyone wants to take part, please do sort of hit us up and
let us know. Roll for you. You know where to find us. Probably on a Zoom call planning more Torchwood to Connor's absolute dismay. Messaging him at 4 a.m. going, "Can we have 8 more episodes?" And he just screams into the void. Fraser Ward at this point pretty much appears in everything now.
Yeah, he does.
You're in DW 2012. You'll be in Dwem eventually. You're in Prism. Etc. So is there anything that you haven't appeared in yet that you would love to play around with?
That's a good question. Yeah, so it's sort of become a sort of cosmic in-joke that there's like a Fraser Ward in every universe. He's popped up in Instability. He's not, I don't know if he's been there yet, but I've recorded for it, I think. He's not been in TT Productions. But we're in talks with them to get a sort of cameo. The main ones I'd really like to pop up in probably would be, do you know Miles Taylor?
Yes.
On Twitter.
We love Miles Taylor.
The relentless Doctor.
The restless
I'd love
Doctor.
That's the one.
the relentless Doctor. He never relents.
I guess I'm dyslexic. I read that yesterday on his Twitter and went, "That's the relentless Doctor." That is. There's also a song by the Stranglers called "Relentless" that I really love. Miles, if you're listening to this, change your name. I think that works much better, to be honest. So he's just tired rather than. I guess "Relentless" works as well. He's just relentlessly not sleeping.
It's just Connor.
yeah. That dog. Okay, so Miles Taylor stuff. Really would like to do something with him. Doctor Who Velocity.
Yeah.
Doctor Who Velocity would be a really good. I've spoken to Velocity about it, and they said they'd be game. But it would be really nice to actually get something going with both of those. fan productions because I've
Well,
really.
once this is out, we'll tweet out the podcast at them and just at them both and go, get on it.
Tweet. Let's make some magic, baby. Yeah, no, it's just there's the thing is like I like that kind of in joke that's kind of formed because it was originally just a subtle in joke, and then now it's becoming more of an actual like staple joke that there's a version of him in like every universe somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think he's not
Everyone
the same
has
in every one of them. Yeah, everyone's got one, and that's the thing I sort of said nowadays is the fact that everyone has got one of them in their universe. They just either haven't they've just not shown him yet, basically.
Just haven't met you yet.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just a case of if you want him, just put him in a script and send it to me. And if it's all
and then
above
James
board,
will finally actually listen and watch your stuff.
Yeah, there's also another joke, which is I'm a very busy person, so I don't have a lot of time to listen to like a million and one things and on the YouTubes. But if I'm in it, I'll make a special exception and I will check it out, which is why I watched all of like 4 seconds from Into the Time Loop yesterday. But I did watch like
you were
20
in that
minutes
one.
I appeared right at the very end. I'm in the
you
next
appear
time
in a
trailer.
next time trailer, so you'll watch that one.
Yeah. I appeared in, I think I was in episode 1, I appeared in the Next Time trailer in episode 1, and then I was in episode 2, and then I was in episode 3 in the Next Time trailer, and apparently I'm in episode 4, and I'm in episode 5. So Luke's learnt the formula to get me to watch his episodes. So can't fault him. It's play on my ego, and I'll watch your show, which kind of rhymed. But yeah, no, those are fan productions I really like to work with, but obviously Dwem, TT, and I don't think I've appeared in Man at Desk yet as Fraser.
Who?
Man, he's a sort of underground artist that no one's really heard of. Apparently, he doesn't really exist.
He doesn't exist that much.
I'm sorry, Jed. Jed does exist. He's real. He's real to me. It was real to me. But yeah, no, Jed, it would be good to do something with him. And I am doing stuff with Dark Days with Rassilon Productions already. That's why I haven't mentioned them, but I'm keen to do stuff with him. So yeah, no, that's basically it. Besides rattling off 200 different fan productions for the rest of the time, but I think those are the main ones that I've really sort of seen.
Miles and Crystal.
Miles and Crystal, they're the two that I'd really like to pop up in.
I mean, if I could have Kiwi interact with anyone, it would be probably those two as well.
They're just I think what they're doing is so like it's different. It's sort of separate and their own thing, and it's very like especially Velocity. Velocity is so stylized and so fun looking that it's one of those things that I would love to just get to play in that world.
We'll fly you over. We'll put you in a Hawaiian shirt.
Be like, hello, I'm on holiday at the moment from Torchwood.
This is
I'm sorry.
The universe's Fraser is Holiday Fraser. He's just constantly on a holiday. You actually never find out if that universe's Fraser works for Torchwood, because every time she runs into you, you're just on holiday again. Always somewhere different.
Doctor, what are you doing here? This is Tahiti. I'm away
on
from
holiday.
work at the moment. I'm just sipping a margarita on the beach. Where's the TARDIS? And then Crystal's like, it's like, I don't know what's happening. Where's the, it's just, I want
These
holiday.
are the Himalayas. What are you doing here? Just going for a hike.
And he's just still in the Bermuda shirt and everything.
He's still in a Hawaiian shirt, but he's got like the snow glasses on and everything.
I want him to look exactly like Benoit Blanc from the Glass Onion with a little ascot.
I think at this point we need to do a little murder mystery thing led by Fraser Ward.
Yeah. It compels me though.
We'll see We'll see how many like big Doctor Who YouTubers we can get in one video where Fraser Ward is just trying to figure out which one of them's a murderer.
You know what? It's given me an idea, and it's for that. It's for that episode for volume
3.
I'm going to reveal something now. No, for the other one.
Oh yes.
There's
Yes,
an
okay,
episode
yeah.
in it which I was you know the one.
Yep, I know the one.
I've got a complete idea now for that.
Oh.
You said that. But anyway, we got to put it
Anyway,
back to the question
moving
before we
on.
give away too much stuff. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Right, next question, I guess, because that's who I'd like to play with.
What are the ways that you think you're able to expand upon like Fraser and Lizzie and Tommy and Chris and Jack in ways that you don't think the original Torchwood was able to expand upon theirs?
As in the BBC's one, or as in like, I think there's a lot that comes.
How
from
are you better?
I think
you don't whip your dick out while recording, so
there's. I mean, it's all audio. You never know.
You never know. You've heard it here first,
reasons,
folks.
I don't.
James just is always in full mood while recording.
It's the only way I get to really express. I need to feel vulnerable.
Your brother walks in like, "What are you doing?" You're like, "I'm recording."
It's Torchwood, baby. No, it's
as he closes the door, he just hears a really muffled "woo, baby, woo,
woo, baby, woo." That's what I've been waiting for. That's what I'm talking now. What is it? So with Torchwood, I love Torchwood, but I would say that it feels very disjointed all the time.
Yeah,
I think it was like series 1 compared to series 2 compared to series 3. And then compared to series 4, all the characters, besides possibly Jack, are completely different characters each time. And I get growth and stuff like that, but there's a level of they do complete 180s on each other that is noticeably kind of odd, in the sense of like, I think like series 1, Owen Harper is fun, but he is also the worst bastard. And he's still a bastard in series 2, but he's developed more into having something likable about him that you can associate with and sort of recognize as him being flawed but human. Whereas in comparison to where he was in series 1 of wanting to die and throwing himself in weevil cages and all this kind of stuff, to where he was in the next series of wanting to live, they feel kind of disjointed in a way because of how far they go from where he is in, like when you see him with that sort of creepy date rape sort of drug thing that he sprays on himself, the pheromones, like that, compared to where he is by the end of series 2, are completely separate characters. And I get that there can be character growth and stuff with people, but it feels like
they decided to do something very different with him.
Yeah, like if it wasn't the same actor, I wouldn't be able to recognize that as the same character, basically, is the way it feels in my mind. And the same with like Gwen. Like Gwen obviously joins the team and she grows from there. But the whole kind of way Gwen is just cheating on Reese and the way she talks to Reese throughout like series 2 and all this kind of stuff. And then she gets to the point where she's going to marry Reese, but every time she sees Jack, she's going, "I love him, but not in the way I love you." And you're like, okay, well, in series 1, there wasn't really a Gwen and Jack thing going on. There was the Owen and Gwen thing going on. And then in series 2, randomly out of the blue, there's like Jack's all jealous that she's getting married and sees the engagement ring, and then she says that thing to him in the Adam episode where, I love him but not the way I love you, and then like she's getting cuddled by the Nostrovite disguised as Jack, and it's all a bit nice, and he runs in at her wedding and ruins things. And there's lots of stuff like that where it's like, okay, why are we now trying to make Jack and Gwen a thing? Is this going to have any payoff? And then you get to series 3, and then it's all in on Jack and Yanto. No mention of Gwen and Jack at all. And I was like, well, what the hell was the plot of that? And then you get to series 4, at least series 3 and 4, Gwen feels more sort of connected. Like at that point, they felt like they were on the same.
They knew what to do with Gwen at that point.
Yeah, and by that point, half the team, well, over half the team, are dead, which means
so they could only really develop 3 characters.
They can. So now they're focusing just in on those characters, and they pretty much got it down to. And then one of them dies again. So yeah, it's just Gwen and Jack by the end of it, really. So that's just a case of, okay, well, Gwen likes Reese, and Jack is sad about Yanto, I guess. I don't know. And so I feel that's where the main sort of thing that with Torchwood was everything was a bit disjointed, because I feel like series 1 there was not much direction in a way. Series 2 they kind of worked out where they wanted to go with things, and but it still felt a bit all over the shop. And then 3 and 4 very much have it together. But what this is all, I've not even got onto our Torchwood, but what I'm saying is with our Torchwood, we've planned a certain number of volumes at the same time. They've all been planned out, following on from each other, interconnecting. Points that we raise in volume 2 will appear in the final volume. You know, there's stuff like this where it's okay, and we've all obviously we worked to connect it into volume 1. So volume 1 was the foundation, and we worked to connect that to volume 2, and everything from there then it connects into the volume 2 volume 1 kind of thing. So the whole thing is keeping it consistent, and I think the thing that makes it like our one sort of stand out is how much we've been able to interconnect and reference and make sure that everything marries up continuity wise. Like we don't need a million references that like, oh, remember when this happened in that episode? Yeah, now like we've got a few of those kind of things going on, but we don't need it to happen. But it's enough that we're aware of it, and it's not a case of anything conflicts. The characters sort of stay pretty consistent, and I think that's one thing that I think we're doing quite well with this series is how sort of interconnected it all feels, and how much it kind of feels like. Because I hate when like you're watching, like I watched the Vampire Diaries, and you get to the end of every season. That and like Once Upon a Time, you get to the end of every season, and it's like we've saved the day, and then next season there was this great evil that we never mentioned in the previous seasons, but it's the worst thing in the world, and now it's going to kill us. And you're like, well, where did that come from? I didn't see that coming at all. This has never been mentioned. Now you're just making things up. You clearly had maybe a 3-series plan, and you've got to series 4, and you've gone, yeah, this guy was always around. And
like Supernatural kind of shit. They planned 5 seasons, and then past that point, you can obviously tell that they were just making things up.
Yeah, they
and
started
trying to cram it randomly
basically
into a canon.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing that I was determined not to let happen with Torchwood, is that I don't like that level of storytelling. Like I actively get annoyed, and I notice it like when I think I was watching like The Flash, and that's very noticeable every season. Like the first few got away with it, I feel, with like Zoom and the Reverse Flash. But then you
Reverse
get to
Flash and Zoom and Savitar are like different enough.
Yeah, Savitar's the last one in my mind.
from the future, and then
yeah. So, but the thing was, there's like they had that kind of thing, and there's that whole thing where the Flash disappears in Crisis, and then they go past that point, and then it's just a free for all. It's like, okay, right, so what now? And so it's a case of I don't like that kind of thing. So I think that's what we do really well with Torchwood, at least, is making sure that everything connects, and not just into our series, it connects into multiple series that are crossing over with us as well. We've actually managed to make it span into those ones and sort of connect with the wider universe to sort of make something that's hopefully going to be really, really interesting to actually sit down and listen to. So yeah, but I think that's the main thing we did that I would consider sort of an improvement upon the original sort of Torchwood series. But I didn't want to like better it in the sense of I didn't want it to not feel like the same show. I wanted because the thing is it's set with a different team within the same sort of universe, and I wanted it to have that DNA, but it also isn't trying to be Torchwood. That's the bottom line. Is I didn't want it to try and be Torchwood 3. It's very much like the sort of almost the setup is sort of more similar to Torchwood 1 in a way, but then maybe like if Torchwood 3 had the sort of setup of Torchwood 1, is this kind of amalgamation. But that's the thing, like it's the same job, it's the same, you know, parameters as a team sort of thing that I wanted to be like, okay, well, they're the same company, you know. It's like McDonald's, you know, if we were going to write it, they're going to still be making burgers. They're not going to suddenly be doing pizzas. You know, it's a case of this is the same company, the same job, the same, you know, setup, but with different characters in it, and that's what we're exploring. But it is still a different branch of McDonald's. I don't know why I'm going heavy on this one, but it's, you know, there's a branch in Cambridge that's near me, or there's a branch in London, and it's like, okay, they are different. They're different ones. but they are still the same company. So there's still the same sort of DNA intrinsically, but they're different characters are what bring that sort of different dynamic. But it is a fan show at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's a fan audio. People still want this to remind them of the show they loved. They probably, like, we're doing different things, but I don't know how different they want it to be, in the sense of they probably wouldn't want us to go so left field that it's completely not the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just got the same title on it. So it's a case of this is very much sort of you're coming to this to find Torchwood, to watch it because you love Torchwood, and that's what I wanted it to be. It's a love letter to that show, but expanding upon it, because there's no point in just directly copying things.
Yeah, exactly. Regarding original Torchwood, and this, of course, being Torchwood on audio, you've mentioned to me before that you've listened to most, if not all, of the Torchwood Big Finishes. I don't know if you're still caught up on them, or if you've fallen off.
I will admit I have fallen off. There was a point where I was working as a horticultural coordinator in a greenhouse for months on end, and in that job I would be alone for long, like most of the day, basically just watering plants, taking cuttings, growing things, and so on. And what I would do is I would have all of them on my iTunes basically loaded up, ready to go, and I would listen to them back to back. And within that sort of job, I listened to all of the Torchwood ones up to that point, got through them all to the point that I then listened to all the new series related audios, like all the 10th Doctor ones, Jenny, the War Master, all of those sort of ones. I managed to listen to all of them as well at that point. So I'm caught up to about summer of 2020.
Fair.
But I have been listening to some since. So I don't know when I dropped off, but it's the case of there's some after that point.
There's some you've listened to, but you haven't listened to every single one.
Yeah, I've been quite busy recently, and yes.
So
I wasn't in the Myverse.
If people are looking to begin Torchwood on Big Finish, what do you think are your top 3 recommendations?
Well, it depends what angle you want to go into. Obviously, you can go straight in for volume, which is what is series 5 effectively, which is Aliens Among Us, I believe.
I think that's it.
That's if you want to directly continue on from the end of Miracle Day, basically, you go for that one. But if you just want to sort of like experience Torchwood on audio with the team you remember rather than the new Torchwood team. The new Torchwood team are great. Like, I love St. John Colchester and all that kind of stuff. Like, they're all wonderful. But if you're wanting to go for your original team, I'd suggest starting with either the Torchwood Archive, basically the specials they did the Torchwood Archive, they did Believe, and they did Outbreak. And I think Believe is probably my favorite one of most of them, because it's the one with all the team in it together. And I think that is such an exquisite audio that I would recommend starting with that one, because even if you don't want to continue on with the audio style, I think that one is worth watching enough or listening to enough that one is just enjoyable.
Yeah.
If you want to get into the sort of monthly range, the way I did it was I just went in order, because sometimes they reference themselves. They'll make references to themselves later on because they've now developed enough that they can do that. So if you watch them out of order, you may miss stuff. Really, you should start with the Torchwood Archive, though. That was the first one they did, I believe, out of all of them, and so that's ground zero. You kind of do that one, and then you'd go to the what's it called? The Conspiracy? It's whichever one. The first ever one with Jack in, basically. That was called something along those lines.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me look it up. I'll Google this. We're going to Google, people. I'm probably completely miles off it. Torchwood monthly range. It was, I think it is a conspiracy. Was I right? I was right. It is Torchwood the Conspiracy. Okay. So Torchwood the Conspiracy is the sort of one I would say to start off with. From there, I think that's really how you sort of get into the sort of Torchwood audios is start with Archive, follow that up by jumping into the monthly range with Conspiracy and going from there. Believe and Outbreak are just specials, so they don't really have too much of a sort of place, but like that really you can't go wrong with Order. But if you don't care about Order and you don't want to like listen to all of them, and your favorite character is, I don't know, like Owen, just go and listen to the Hope and Corpse Day and all the ones with Owen in. Like, there is really no rules in this. You can just pick your favorite character and listen to those because they will develop upon your favorite character. Yeah, like I jumped in with
Iceberg
first
excellent.
Iceberg's brilliant. I jumped in. What's the one with all the moss, the mold? Lease of Life.
Lease of Life, yeah. No, I like that one.
That and the three monkeys, the three
monkeys. Yeah,
yeah. Those ones, all of those ones are really fun, and I love Owen. But it's a case of I listened to them and I realized I wanted to listen to more, and then I was like, how do I do this? And I just went order, just listen to them in order.
Yeah,
and go from there.
I think the first ones I ever downloaded were or bought was I got Broken, Corpse Day, and can't remember the other one was. It was the one with fucking Yanto in the plane.
Fall to Earth? Maybe?
Fall to Earth, yeah.
I think it's that one.
I quite enjoyed those ones.
No, I really do enjoy all the it is Fall to Earth. Yeah, no, that was the second one they ever did. Fall to Earth. It was Conspiracy Set of Fall to Earth. But yeah, I think I caught on pretty quickly that I was just going to like all of these, and so I started listening in order after that point. So there wasn't really any sort of I started with this one and went from there. Like, it was very much a case of I dived in order. I've always been sort of like that when watching Doctor Who episodes anyway, like the old ones as well. Like, it was never a case of that I went, this is the one I must listen to first. Wow, how far behind am I? Oh no, I'm up to there. Did that one. Listen to that one. There, that's where I drop off.
Where do you drop off?
I drop off at The Grey Mare. That's the next one I need to watch.
I
listened to The Red List, The Great Sontaran War, Curios, Empire of the Shadows, Madame Mime. So I'm up to The Grey Mare. Then I need to listen to Caddock Point, Sunny, Infidel Places, War Chest, Dead Plates, Restricted Items Archive, entries 31 to 49, Suckers, A Postcard from Mr. Colchester, Death in Venice, Torchwood SUV, Lincolnshire Poacher, Empire Man, Double, and The Last Love Song of Susie Costello. That's where I need to get up to.
Oh, fair.
It's a few, but I've got some flights in between. I usually listen to them when I'm on a flight somewhere, so I've been sort of picking them off gradually.
Yeah.
But then there's, of course, like I expanded from Torchwood to the other volumes and stuff. So like a lot of the time now, it's not, I've not been like not listening to Big Finish, but I listen to most of the Ninth Doctor volumes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so,
I'm behind on them. I think the last one of them I listened to was the Sea Devil episode.
I didn't even get to that point. I think I was last on the Cybermen ones.
Oh yeah, no, you're like a whole series behind now.
Yeah, I was on the one where it was like Metropolis.
Oh no, you're like 5 volumes behind.
Yeah, they kept making those things.
Yeah,
just, yeah. But anyway, we've been stuck on this for a while. But that's where I would say.
Cool. I've got 2 questions. I think we had 3, and then I realized we kind of answered one of them. So going back to Fraser Ward appearing in God Near Everything, you've of course been confirmed to be in the Dwem 60th, the last universe at this point.
Yep.
So where do you see that being placed in the timeline for Fraser? Is that going to be set around where we are in volumes wise, or is that future or past? Like, what is that?
So that's future for Fraser. So that's actually further than we've got plans for him being at this moment in time. So this will become it's set before we'll see him in the Back to Earth or whatever it was, Earthbound, the Earthbound series that Connor had done. So in that one, that was 2024. And I said, because of the fact that Fraser's there's a lot basically going on with Fraser in our current timeline, which is set after Volume 2.
Yeah.
And in between Volume 2 and what would be Volume 3, effectively, there is a case of he's so busy at that time period that I thought it would be easier for him to be appearing in the Dwem's 60th in modern day. So it's literally 2023 that this Fraser is from. He's from now. What's happening in the world now, where he is at this point in this very year is where we will be seeing him from the Dwem 60th. So it's the future by future by was 20, so it's 8 years. It's 8 years in the future from when we'll see him in volume 2, basically, is where you'll be seeing Fraser then. And so a lot will have happened to him by that point. We'll be trying not to spoil things too much, but there will be certain references in there that there'll be things in there that you won't pick up on. They're like they're so subtle you won't notice them, and then if you come back to them in years to come with the context, you'll go, oh god, oh right, okay, I get that. Like you really won't notice much, but yeah, it's set in the future, and we'll be seeing him from where he is in 2023, basically. Yeah, I mean that's basically it, really. I mean, I can't really tell you much more about his character, really, because well, all he's been through is everything that's about to happen to him that we'll see.
Yeah,
but it's very exciting anyway. I'm looking forward to doing it. I'm really the story that's been cooked up over there for the Dwem 60th is really exciting.
I'm excited. I need to get on to editing. We've got a couple people left to record, and then we can start editing.
Then we can begin.
All right, last question.
Okay.
What can we expect from Torchwood in the future, and where would you like to take these characters next?
Okay, well, definitely more Monster of the Week stories are sort of coming up. We've already started, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm going to say it. We've already started volume 3. I mean, to be fair, when they see volume 2, they'll realize that there's sort of continues somewhere. There's a next.
It doesn't just end.
So we started volume 3, and it's very much more a case of sort of Monster of the Week style stories, more of them. And we've also, and I'm not going to confirm, but we've managed to get more episodes per volume. So we're going for a bigger, grander sort of scale kind of volume style of things, where you'll get more content from us, more episodes, longer episodes, all this kind of stuff, and they will be diving into every character that we can think of, basically. So I'm really excited to sort of be able to explore everyone, because volume 2 very much continues on from volume 1 to the point that you could basically not call it volume 2 and just say it's volume 1 part 2, basically, at this point. Like, that's how much it connects. So it's going to be basically like volume 1 has like 8 episodes as opposed to being that. So this next volume, though, will have sort of, the sort of similar amount of episodes, to the point that it's like, okay, this is more episodes than we've had in both the previous volumes, basically. So this is more, we're getting to dive into things. So you'll see the characters really getting put through the ringer. Every sort of raw emotion we can think of is going to be sort of developed and shown through these things: relationships, scandals, sex, all sorts of things, love, passion, depression. It's all of it is going to sort of be expanded upon and shown, and also not just looking forward, but going back into their pasts to find out more about this story that's sort of unfolding. So we're going to be sort of looking at all these mysteries and twists and turns and stuff developing, and so it could really be this story will be spanning for a while. But so for the future of Torchwood, I'm just very keen to sort of develop these characters and make everyone sort of believe they're real, and fall in love with them effectively, and then watch us do awful things to them.
Just tear their lives apart.
Yeah, really, just
and sometimes them.
No one gets away from Torchwood unharmed. So it's gotta happen. So you'll be seeing from there. But with Torchwood, my dog's barking. Can I help you? It's Sunday, so it's not the postman. What do you want? But
There's no post
effectively,
on Sundays.
No, quite right, Harry. Quite right. But yeah. So that's the kind of. I don't want to spoil too much because I could tell you loads of things I want to do with Torchwood and what we planned, but like, you know, it's the case of that. But I just want to expand this universe of Torchwood. Like it's obviously inside of a Doctor Who universe, but I just want to expand the Torchwood area of it outwards to the point that it feels real, because that's what Torchwood always did. Like Doctor Who takes you to worlds all around the place, you know, other galaxies, universes, and so on. Whereas Torchwood was always expanding the world that we lived in the Doctor Who universe. And so I don't want that to be forgotten or interconnect with Doctor Who stuff so much that you kind of forget that this is about Earth. This is about people and this organization and how they interact with the people of England and all that. Well, Britain overall, but the world as well. In this case, because we expand to sort of, you know, global kind of level stuff eventually. So basically, yeah, what I'm keen to do is expand Earth and what's going on Earth with us, and not have it just be a case of this is a place where the Doctor pops into every once in a while to deal with something. This is where we live, and occasionally the Doctor shows up in our lives rather than it being us occasionally showing up in his life. And so that's what I think Torchwood's sort of job is, to expand on the other people in the universe.
Yeah, exactly. We've got a time limit. So we're going to need to close out the Zoom very shortly.
We've got 4 minutes, so I'm like, is this a closing moment or?
This will be a closing moment, yes. But so Torchwood, Nexus, March. Watch it. James is in it, so he'll be watching.
I will.
James, promote. Where can we find you?
Well,
give us some stuff.
Currently I'm doing work. I usually do my prop work under under Scarecrow Props is my prop work, my personal stuff. And so I also have that on YouTube where I post videos occasionally every like other year about props and stuff. So if you want to find out more about what I do sort of by myself, look out for Scarecrow Props. I'm also on like socials as Scarecrow Sutton. That's more sort of cosplay and general stuff. But I'm doing a lot of work at the moment for my company, which is Little Shop Props, where you can find various things where we've been doing lots of work with like Rubbertoe Replicas, who have the license and do the sort of Doctor Who props, like the screwdrivers and such like. And then been doing just a lot of other cool things. So you can find out more about all of that on there. But then of course there's obviously the Torchwood Nexus Instagram account and Facebook and all of those kind of things where you can find out more about the series itself, and then of course Overton Audios, which you will already know about if you're here, which is where the series will be coming out on. And so I will be seeing you every week for a time limit that basically has hurt Connor Chadwick immensely in the editing process for how long these scripts turned out to be. They're all very long. They're some of the longest he's ever made, especially for a whole volume. I think it might be the longest volume he's ever made in the sense of like time wise for the amount of episodes in it. So you're going to have a lot of content every week. So just look out for it every week. I don't know what day he's putting them out on, but yeah. Oh, and alongside that, look out for Divergence, which I'm popping up in as the Warden every other month. Yeah, we didn't mention that. Well, I'm in that. Yeah, so look out for that.
Yeah. Very well. Well, it's great having you on. I'm sure we'll have you. Well, I'm sure we'll have you again when Torchwood Volume 3 eventually releases. Once we get into our asses into gear on that one.
I'll pop up every once in a while. Well, it's getting there.
It's getting there. Yeah. But yeah. Cutting back to future me and future chatters, and hopefully he says silliness.
Ooh.
And welcome back to the podcast. It is myself and Eamon.
Hello.
Back again.
Yes, we are back.
Good.
You didn't say it. Anyway.
What was I supposed to say?
Anyway. Comments reading.
Yes, comments
Spoon,
reading.
Thomas, you know what to do.
What?
Chatters, let's get on to comments reading, shall we?
Okay, so we're going to start the comments reading with Volume 4 of Crimson Hunter. And
Excellent.
And then, of course, as of recording this, we've got only one of the audiobooks.
What about the Divergent story?
Oh, That is true. Well, in that case, I will begin with Divergence episode 2. I will then be reading.
I just remembered it. I was like, ah!
Yeah, and then I will be reading the comments for the first 2 episodes of Crimson Hunter Volume 4, followed up by Eamon doing the final episode, and then the first episode of Remembrance 3, because episode 2 is not currently out as of when we're recording this. So yes, anyway, I will begin reading with Divergence episode 2. So the first comment by Michael Cox, otherwise known as Dr. Riddy Vivas, says, naturally, I simply record my lines and send them to Connor. So now, to hear the whole story is as much a treat for me as it is for other listeners. I was completely absorbed in the alternate tale of Amy's encounter with the Doctor in Prisoner Zero. Elliot Crossley's impression of the 10th Doctor is superb, and as for Alia E. Tori's, well, goodness me, she does Susan, the Rani, and Naomi Pond. Is there no voice she can't do? An excellent production, and can't wait for episode 3. Then we had another comment from CSP saying, well, I'm possibly going to embarrass myself here, but the idea of 10 meeting Amy Pond has been in my head for about 12 years. I remember my first ever fan fictions I did was of this very same idea, but to hear it finally done makes my childhood self happy with glee. Everything was perfect, to a T. Exactly like I imagined it all those many years ago. Trust me, I think I'll be listening to this one for a very long time. There were some other very nice comments from people saying it was wonderful and great.
That long?
What?
Is it that long?
Sure. Well, anyway, moving on to
for a long time.
Anyway, so for Crimson Hunter Volume 4, Episode 1, we have a comment from Blue Kazoo, otherwise known as Chelsea Lagan herself, saying, it's always good to listen to an episode fully together, and I can't wait to hear the rest. And another comment from TT Productions 23, can never go wrong with an Overton audio. Loved this casting, was on point. Chelsea was brilliant as ever. The script worked so well, and well done to everyone involved. I cannot wait for the next one. Another comment from Michael Cox, otherwise known as Dr. Riddy Vivas, says, excellent. Julia is placed in an unfamiliar position, uncertain and vulnerable, and in this appropriately slow build, she tries to make sense of her circumstances. Roll on episode 2. Then we have another comment from Ryan Dunphy, who says, excellent job, guys. Hats off to you all. When will the next installment be out? Which, of course, by this point, they're all out. They were coming out weekly. Crimson Hunter volumes would usually come out over the course of one day, but for this one volume, because it was the last volume, we wanted to kind of extend it out and give it time and to breathe, because there was a lot of original concepts that we went back to that we did like 4 years ago. So we wanted to give everyone the time to kind of figure out what was going on. And luckily, I like to think that's paid off. The final comment from CSP, but I wanted to talk about anyway. I wanted to address it because there was a few arguments in the comments about this, but I wanted to really properly address it here. The comment from CSP says, as always, my hat's off to the team at Overton Audios as we get another great chapter in the Crimson Hunter saga. I was captivated by beginning to end, and only time will tell if that continues throughout the rest of the volume released. 9 out of 10. Also, I think I have an idea where the spoilers Iris stuff comes from, but I hope I'm on the right lines here because I don't want to find out that I'm wrong and was thinking about what I was thinking when the volume concluded. Now, that comment is all well and good, but I wanted to talk about, because the comments read below is turned into a bit of an argument, because this story that we've made is originally adapted by a friend of mine called Julia Arthur-Meyer. She wrote a story in 2012 called Iris and adapted it for another Doctor Who series with someone who used to be a part of Overton Audios but has since departed. And they had commented saying that I had used the story without permission and all these things. For starters, it wasn't written by them. It was written by Julia Arthur-Meyer, who I contacted and I've worked with to develop the story. And I have made no secret of like in the segment I did with Chelsea last month, I mentioned it was part of an original fan film made by Oliver Silcock, otherwise known as Infinite X, on YouTube. I really wanted to mention it again here because it got people very confused about this argument. But I just want to make it absolutely clear that this isn't a concept that I'm stealing. I've spoken to the original writer. It was made for another fan film that was made 10 years ago. That person I talked to, I no longer talk to anymore. I just wanted to make something with an old friend that I've known since 2010. That being Julia. Neither of us saw an issue. I've made it. I've also made it known again. I've not tried to hide that there was something else that was written by her of the same titles and some same characters. I've not tried to hide it as much as it has come across from the original comments that I'm trying to hide something. But please, if you really enjoyed Crimson Hunter Volume 4, I do implore you to go and watch the original one. You can find it in the descriptions of the episodes. You can see that when I write in the the description saying this is a fan production, I do also add another comment afterwards just saying this was part of an original production made in 2012, and there is the link to the episode as it's uploaded to YouTube and still available to watch now. So I just wanted to clear the air with that one, because I just, I've mentioned the last one, it's mentioned in the episodes, and now I've mentioned it here. Cool. With episode 2
bro.
Yes, with episode 2 of Volume 4, we have a comment from Dr. Reddy Vivas saying, an excellent episode with splendid performances from the cast, and what a reveal that was. Although a highly paced and action-packed drama, there was space given to a slower paced, tender moments between Julia and the blonde doctor, making this a great story that delivers on a number of levels in pacing and content. Another Overton Audios triumph. There was another comment from CSP. Oh my God, that was amazing stuff. I don't want to say much more, but damn, is the next episode going to be worth a listen? Well done to everyone involved. A 10 out of 10. And then we have another comment from Ryan Dunphy, who says that all I can say is fire emoji, fire emoji, fire emoji. Roll on the next episode. And those are all the comments for episode 2. Eamon, what comments do you have to read?
I have episode 3 of the Crimson Hunter Volume 4. Iris by Connor Chadwick and Julia. How do I say that last name?
I've literally just said it. Alpha Maya.
Alpha Maya, that one. You assume I was listening during that.
I assumed wrong.
See, we got one comment on this one.
Oh, okay, that's nice and simple.
Yes. From CSP, who says, that's it. It's done. This is the best thing ever. I really felt every moment. I know what could top this. I assume that means I don't know what could top this. But man, it's going to be a long, long time until something does. Thanks to everyone involved. You made something truly magnificent, and I'll never forget it, ever. 10 out of 10. Though it deserves more than that just because it was so brilliant. Then let's go to the thing that topped it.
Eamon. No.
Not wrong though. So, A Time in My Life by me, Eamon Longman.
Yes.
Oh, what a surprise. TET Productions 23 says, broken. CSB says, honestly, have no words. Thanks to everyone involved. This was excellent. A masterpiece work of art. I don't think I could go on after this. 12 out of 10. Mary Ann, and I keep mispronouncing the same. Natal? I have no idea. I would say, once again, I said this last podcast, if I'm saying your name wrong, attack me in the comments. Holy bleeping bleepity bleep. That was amazing. Talk about a video. Well, just an audio. Even more impressive. Kicking my ass. I mean, yeah, I've got naturally leaky eye faucets that will drip from a song, but this turned them on full blast. All I can do to begin to describe my opinion, and then it's lots of different coloured hands applauding, including yellow ones. So the Simpsons applauded as well. And it says standing ovation, which is
Very
lovely.
Good. Yes.
And then we've got a comment from, drum roll, I assume you'll put that in post. Chelsea
You assume wrong.
This is one of those moments where I listen back and completely remember the very first time I played Julia Breslin, and what an amazing adventure it has been with the Doctor. To the amazing writer, Eamon Longman, that's me. Such a tearjerker for me, and only amazing writing can do that. To the amazing people I've met on the way have now become my family. And last but not least, to Connor Chadwick, the man that took a chance with me, the person that barely knew me, and my only line was, "Who are you?" Here we are 6 years later, and I really have had the time of my life. Connor Chadwick, the Doctor, my superhero. What an amazing adventure we had, and I'm sure for other audios and characters, this isn't the end. And she put 4 hearts, which is twice the amount the Doctor has. It's a lot of hearts.
It is indeed. Oh, that was a lovely comment.
Lovely comment. And that's all the comments I have.
Indeed. Now,
indeed.
speaking of audio dramas, as we often do, shall we
do that?
Shall we go to the Big Finish discussions?
We should. Let's hear my beautiful boy George.
And welcome back to the podcast. This is the Big Finish discussions with George Guidera. Hello, George.
Hello. You actually didn't kill me off at the end of the last one, then.
No, I did not. We are, in fact, we were here to talk about the First Doctor, just like you wanted
the glorious
to.
First Doctor. Yes, I totally didn't forget the release dates.
Ooh. Indeed. Good. I'm glad that you remembered.
She's dead!
Stop it!
That tune. Same tune.
I can hardly believe this is London.
Yes. Oh, it's invigorating.
And I love the little tellies everyone's got.
Those are communications devices.
Welcome, my freaky friends. Daniel D. Art, Demon Hunter on the case. And we've got another one.
You've charted the last known whereabouts of all the missing persons.
Who are you?
Oh, Dodo, careful!
Stop it!
No, that's not right at all. Oh, dear.
It feels like something's got hold of us.
Yes, that's it.
Yes, excuse me. Andrews, evacuation point.
A seaside town.
Yes, evacuation is proceeding pretty efficiently.
There seems to be quite a lot of smoke rising from that town.
Open fire! Shoot to kill! Good gracious! Has it been recovered? Good. Then get it to the base as soon as you can and put a tarpaulin over it. No one is to see it, you understand? No one.
The heat the object is radiating is little short of fantastic.
If I make one error, the entire thing will explode, taking this base and several miles of coastline with it.
But yes, so you've listened to the Demon Song first. I am notoriously massively behind on everything, but I have heard it. What did you think of it?
As a box set, I really enjoyed it. Again, it just highlights to me how much I love how Big Finish is able to tell these stories they probably couldn't have done in the 60s, but still make it feel like it's part of that era. Again, I think I think there's just a lot of positives to this. Stephen Noonan, when I heard him in the initial box that he did, I think also he does that moment of, I was used to it being, Peter Purves or David Bradley, so it was an adjustment, but it was really enjoyable hearing him in this. I think he did a good job capturing the character. And again, the one thing this box set does makes Dodo interesting.
Yeah, this is true. I have a soft spot for Dodo. I feel like the original actress and the character were just written out at last minute, which they were, because we never saw them again after part 1.
I do feel very sorry. I do feel very sorry for that, and that's why I do find it quite.
Well, let's not talk about what the Doctor Who wiki says happened to her, because that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, that's not
another thing. Now, here's the thing for me, right?
Yeah.
I'm actually really still struggling with Stephen Noonan because I don't know if you were to ask me who it was without context, I'd still say the first Doctor, but I feel like he's a bit too shouty. Like
I do have that
more
does distract
shouty
me.
he was much more shouty in the early versions with Ian and Barbara. But he mellowed over the course of it. And Dodo is actually very far towards the end of the first Doctor's life, because after Dodo is Ben and Polly for only a couple of stories, and then we have the 10th planet.
Yes.
Like, this is him very far into his life. And there's a lot of good things that Stephen Noonan has done, which I really like, which is, he's got, how he's getting a few names wrong.
Yes, I do pick
It's
up on
a
that.
really nice touch. And I've heard him in the Big Finish podcast talk about how he went into a lot of detail about what it was like to film on set and really tried to capture the essence of it. So when he's talking about like Archie, he'll say, Archie does this. And it's like, well, yeah, because that, like it happened. One of the first ways you see it's actually in the first ever Dalek story, the Daleks, when he goes, we don't have gloves, drugs. Like those little things where he trips over words is just a really nice inclusion to have. And you can also, as a result, you can immediately tell where it is in the first Doctor era. And it's really nice for that. I do hope, again, that we see more of David Bradley's version of the first Doctor to come. I'm not at all... It's not that I'm not 100% sure on the character. It's just there are certain things about it that, for me, I'm just like, don't quite match up with what things were like. Like, he wasn't so shouty. Like, he just screams at people sometimes.
There are moments... Okay. Here's the thing. When he does the shout, it does feel like a very Hartnell shout. Like, again, I think in the early days, you have the...
Oh, yeah, don't be wrong. It's a very awkward thing because...
It can be a bit distracting, though, because there are some moments where, like, here's the thing. Dodo will do something that would irritate him. And you know how you'd get a bit of a... not an anger, but more of a fellow like, oh, my dear, you don't do this. But he would shout it.
This is the thing. This is the thing. Again, you're talking to a Hartnell fan. I'm very specific. For me, I don't think it's out of character for him to go, what do you think you're doing? No. It's not like this at all. But it sounded like he was screaming at everyone a lot, especially because obviously in the Demon Song volume, there's two stories, the Demon Song, and then it was the Incherton incident. I think the Incherton incident, there was a lot more reason for him to shout in that one.
Yes, 100%.
So I'm not against that, because a lot of things were going on in that story that would require him to have to try and raise his voice to gain attention. Makes complete sense. In the Demon Song, I was just like, do you like anyone? Like,
that's it, because
it was like, I was like, how does Dodo put up with this?
The thing is, I just think we should, because I know what some people might think. We have nothing against Stephen Noonan playing the first Doctor.
No,
he's coming in there, and I think he's giving
I do agree with what you've said about his performance improving between the Outlaws and the Demon Song. Because when the Outlaws came out, I wasn't sold on it. I could still hear it was the first Doctor, but I think it was still needing refinement. I think with the Demon Song, it's a massive step in the right direction, and I just feel like there are little things that could be improved, like little things that can be improved, like not screaming at the top of your lungs, for example.
Because what's interesting in the Demon Song, because the actual story of the Demon Song, because there's a lot of it where other characters will have ear protectors on, so he does have to speak a bit louder. He doesn't shout.
That bit was funny.
But that's what makes me laugh. He doesn't shout, though, a lot of it. It will be more like, hello, yes, I'm trying to talk to you a bit more like this, but not actually like screaming. And I thought, if he delivered some of the lines, like his more irritable lines like that would have worked a bit.
It was like when they're wearing the ear defenders and someone's talking, he's like, what? What are you saying? It's like, okay, yeah, that works. But like, do you know what I mean? And he was shouting in a way that you could. This is going to sound really obscure, and I'm sure there's a better way of saying it. But you know, when someone screams and bellows so loudly that it's almost like you can hear the tonsil in the back of their throat wobbling wobbling.
Yes,
it was like that. It was that level of shouting that I was like, "You're not being nice to anyone." Like, I wouldn't like everyone's reactions to his shouting didn't match for me. Like, if it was like, "Oh, what are you talking about, my child?" No, it's not like this at all. It's like this. What are you talking about? It would be, and then her going, "Oh, doctor, come on, don't be silly." But she was saying that to him, screaming at her. And I was like, okay. Oops.
There are a lot of moments I do like. There's one moment.
Don't get me wrong. I should also just quickly preface. So sorry to interrupt, but I should quickly preface because I've only talked about this thing I don't like so far. I really did enjoy, like you were saying about the Demon Song, when it was set in 2020, as they mentioned it being post-pandemic as well, which I didn't quite clock onto what you were saying at first, because when you were messaging, because obviously they do COVID in Stranded 4 with Paul. But it was like another step. It's one step doing that, but then going post-pandemic, it's very interesting the way that, and obviously when you think about it as well, and having like I said with having listened to the Big Finish podcast, Nick Briggs has mentioned on the podcast how they make their scripts and make their Doctor Who scripts and get them made, which is it all runs through the BBC. It means that BBC is allowed a mention of COVID in Doctor Who. It may have just been crossed over. I don't know, but either way, in expanded media, COVID happened. It may not be mentioned in the show because it's more mainstream, but there it is. And
it's why I actually think, going on that, I think the Demon Song is the strongest story in this box set, because it really plays with the fact, it really works with the time period it's set in. It really plays with that, because
that's what's really amazing.
I had a lot of nostalgia because one, like, I go to Camden a lot, and a lot of the story is based in Camden. And obviously when they're talking about, this shop, I know what shop they're talking about. Or when they're talking about the train, it gave the announcement like, "This is the Northern Line to High Barnet." You know, I have to get that
was
train.
Weird. That was weird for me as well. Hang on. But no, but here's the thing. Actually, I think I found a good description for it. But for me, I don't think it's bad for other people, because I still enjoyed the stories. But this box set was the first set of stories I heard where it didn't feel like it was from the 60s. Like it could have aired in the 60s. And it was because obviously the Demon Song was set in 2020 and it had iPhones mentioned, like touchscreen and everything like that. It was much more timely. It was like as if they brought the first Doctor to the new series in a way, but kept it still being themed like the old series. But with all the other stuff they've made before with David Bradley and Stephen Noonan with the Outlaws, they all felt like they fitted in to somewhere in the 60s. But
it was either historical or like an alien planet, or left vague enough where it could just be
exactly. But with the Demon Song, even to some extent, maybe even the Incherton incident, they both felt like I couldn't place them in anywhere in the era, even though I knew where they were from. Because of it's the Doctor and Dodo, I knew what part they were from. It was one of those ones where I couldn't imagine, when the theme tune came in, I couldn't imagine the text going over the screen, because it was too. It was, again, I think it was fascinating to do it, because it's something I've thought about doing before, which is what would happen if you took the first Doctor to modern day. What would you do with that? It was probably because I could relate to it too much. And again, I'm still glad they did it. I'm still glad that the Demon Song it's still a lovely story, and I still love it. But it's just the only thing that is the first Doctor. It's the first set of First Doctor stories that I've heard from Big Finish that didn't make me think it fit in. Do you know what I mean?
I get what you mean. I don't think I felt the same. But again, in terms of like the First Doctor's era, I know it's a lot more special to you than it is to me. Like, don't be wrong, I love the First Doctor. I love that time period of show. But obviously, you know, like, my favourite Doctor is the Eighth Doctor. Your favourite Doctor is the First Doctor. We're obviously going to go differently about these eras. And so for me, I really enjoyed the fact that they went, okay, it's the First Doctor in, we'll say 2022, 2023.
Yeah.
And the fact they actually they're like, okay, let's use this. And here's the thing. I think because of us, we're like, oh, this is the first Doctor mentioning the pandemic. This is the first Doctor talking about a smartphone. We're obviously a bit
and
more
also
like,
the fact, there's also a demon hunter who's either on
that's what I was
Instagram or
gonna
TikTok
say.
or something.
It's the
like that.
fact, though, a live stream helps save the day. And I thought, and I kind of had this moment of, you know what, if you're gonna put him in there, I actually like the fact you used that. Like, but it does give one of my favorite lines where he calls the demon hunter and he goes like, can you read me? And he just goes, yo. He's like, yo. What's yo?
Yeah.
What are you yelling about? Like that made me chuckle so much because that was a moment I was like, okay, that's definitely a Hartnell response. That is a first Doctor response, and that worked really well.
Because with the Inchiton incident, that one was very much a step back into the 60s thing because they resolved that by classic series means. Again, I think Doctor Who's always been a show about experimentation. I've always, even though I don't like the episode or the story episode, I still like what they tried to do with Sleep No More from the Capaldi era, series 9, I think.
Yeah.
Because they did that with no title sequence. It was all filmed from POVs of people's body cameras or CCTV, and the story was made up from there. I think that was a really interesting thing to try. And that's what I think the show's all about. So this is just what I see as the Demon Song as one of those experiments. I don't think it went wrong, but oddly, when I've seen Third Doctor onwards, through the Third Doctor onwards through the other Doctors, going to present day and interacting with smartphones, it still felt like their episode because they've used that device or something and then done something to it with a bit of an invention to make it into something they need to solve the day. Like you were saying about how a live stream saved the day in this. I think it's because the First Doctor, for me as well, feels such an isolated event because there was no such thing as regeneration. This was it. And as the show has changed and regenerated in many ways, allowing the future Doctors to be able to go into the future and interact with other things hasn't felt so weird because the show was changing. Whereas arguably the First Doctor's era was what the show was always going to be if it wasn't for regeneration.
It's the quintessential. This was meant to be an educational show for the family.
Yeah,
it does. The First Doctor.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing they've done it. I feel like I'm kind of treading on eggshells a lot.
But you're saying it stands out more. You're saying it stands out more than if you had the Fourth Doctor. If you had the Fourth Doctor go and do something like that.
Well, that's the thing. The Fourth Doctor has been in 2018 before, and has interacted with things, but it's not been so prevalent. Like you can understand later Doctors having known about social media. It seems weird to me for the First Doctor to be operating a smartphone using TikTok or Instagram.
I do love the way he describes that. He doesn't go, it's a smartphone. He just goes, it's a phone, computer, what does this roll into one?
I at first, when he was talking about it, I related it to how the 1960s Star Trek were done, where they had the flip phones, which were just scanners, that they also used as phones. And it's like they did kind of predict the technology would go on to have and go on beyond. But that's the thing. When he was doing that, I kind of saw it as that. It's only when it came to the demon hunters and using live streams and everything like that I then really started to go, wow, okay, we've really crossed over here. Because when the First Doctor never really knew what things were. He just kind of examined them from a scientific mind. So he was like, some sort of, he goes, some sort of touch screen device. And you're like, there you go. Oh, there you go. Like, it's not an iPhone. Good. But then when he would it was just a weird scenario for me, really. It's just, it's a bit of an odd scenario because the First Doctor's always been very, not contemporary, but his era was always very alien. And it was always
because I was going to say, so I get why it stands out a lot more with this Doctor doing these things. One thing I do want to quickly say is Dodo, I love in this story because they do the interesting thing of they keep the Doctor and Dodo separate for basically all of this story. And I like the fact, though, Dodo gets some character moments, where everyone has a chance to escape. She goes and faces the creature. She's not afraid to stand up to the creature, even connecting to it. And with the greatest of respect, I mean, especially because a lot of her stories aren't around right now, because you don't have much of Dodo, and the stuff you have, let's be fair here, is a bit weak, especially because obviously one of the only things that was out with her at the time was for a good while was the War Machines.
Which, of course, she's only in the beginning of and walks off. And
Exactly. So you don't get a lot of character with her. We won't go into detail, but the expanded media does her dirty. So she's always been viewed as with the greatest of respects. This is no disrespect to the late actress. Was it? I forgot her name. Was it? I don't think. What was the actress's name? Was it Jackie Lane?
I think it was.
I like to just stress I'm very sleep deprived, friends.
No, that's fine. It was Jackie Lane.
Yeah, that's the Jackie Lane. This is no disrespect to her and the job she put in. You can only do so much.
I suspect you're going to say something similar to what happened with Liz Shaw.
Yeah, with the greatest respect, Dodo is a bit of a nothing companion in the eyes of the general fandom.
Oh, that was harsher than I thought it was going to be. I thought you were going to say something. The reason why I was giving you an out with Liz Shaw was because the actress who played Liz Shaw wanted the character to be more, and the producers were like, "No, love," and then they fired her. Like, that's literally what happened, and that's why she's only in one series and doesn't get a goodbye scene. It's because she wanted to do more. But no, you don't know. That's the thing. I get what you're saying. Though. I completely get what you're saying. She wasn't given the material to work with.
She wasn't given the material to work with, and because also a lot of her stuff wasn't around for a while, obviously because a lot of the episodes were lost.
It doesn't help that she was given nothing to work with.
Yeah,
and
she doesn't have a lot of shows, so a lot of the fandom don't particularly view Dodo in the highest regard. So I actually think it was that, and that's what I mean. Like, a lot of the fandom, because I've seen a lot of people I spoke to who don't particularly view her as they're like, oh yeah, she was there. But I think in this story though, it's really nice to see her being this more, standing up for herself or standing up for others kind of character, and in a way, because the Doctor's not around for a good chunk of it in terms of interacting with Dodo, she's having to keep everyone together.
But as well as that, it helps us get a sense of who she is as a character.
Exactly, and that really works for me. And I like to think if Jackie Lane was still around today, I genuinely like to think she'd look at that and go, "Yeah, that's the Dodo I wanted."
Yeah.
And it was this moment I thought, yeah, I like this, and it makes it even more of a shame also she gets the awful exit that she does.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I was going to say as well. But like, not any problems to what's been done with the expanded media, but I hope that something gets brought up in a volume just before they go back to London in the 60s, where she's already thinking about leaving anyway. I'd love there to be some expanded media, because now they've got an actress to fill in for Dodo. They could do so much more with Dodo now, even after the Doctor. And this is the first step towards it. And I hope they do look into it. Like, I don't think they've done it with this year's 8th of March release. I think it's only 2 stories, one with Leela and the First Doctor, and another one with Missy and young Amelia Pond. But imagine an 8th of March with Dodo.
You know what you could do? You could have a 8th of March that is Dodo reuniting with Ben and Polly, because obviously in the Faceless ones they're dropped off, they leave, and the date's not too long from when they originally flew away in the TARDIS. So that'd be quite nice. A little basically the team up we could have had. Dodo teaming up with Polly or something. That'd be quite nice. But I think what's quite nice about this, it does make Dodo a stronger character, these box sets.
Yeah.
And that's something I appeal to. Also, just before we move on to anything, there is a moment, I think it's the moment that kind of hit me that Stephen in it is getting a lot better in terms of the characterization, is the bit where he randomly starts playing something on the piano. It's just like hitting random keys. And the person's like, that just sounds like nonsense. Like, oh yes, indeed. Doing the little giggle and stuff, and that just really made me smile.
Yeah, that's the thing. The only issue I have is the shouting. That's it.
Yeah.
I just why is he screaming at people? Other than that, he got everything down.
Yeah, exactly. You've like there is a vast. You can tell he's a lot more settled with it, which is great. Which is generally makes me happy to see that because.
And he's been very well received by people. I saw at Gallifrey 1, he was very well received and I know that a lot of people were nervous at first because obviously they've been used to the David Bradley stuff. Nick Briggs has said that they haven't stopped working with them. What they've done is the cast recorded so much in advance, and then COVID hit, that things have just basically are out of sync, and people are trying to get back to work to be able to have.
Yeah, so it's sort of like what we were talking about, like the last podcast about, like, you know, Bliss's actress.
Yes, indeed. But yeah, either way, I still really enjoyed the volume. It's just a shame that I felt like I was under so much pressure to listen to it because we said last month that we'd listen to it, and then obviously I've just been quite busy.
So did you enjoy the Edgerton incident?
Yeah, it was very much like the classic, very much like the classic series again. It had the usual beats. It was the usual four-parter. I found that when I listen to four-parters now, they tend to go by a lot quicker. There was a time when I felt like four-parters really dragged for a while for some reason, but now they don't seem to as much, which is good. But I know it felt like, you know, proper, like the proper Cold War stuff and everything like that. It's much closer to home for the 60s.
If I say this, I don't mean this as a negative, but it felt like a much more generic kind of First Doctor era story, and I don't mean that as a negative. I do not mean this was a bad story or a boring story.
How dare you?
You're gonna kill me again by the end of this. No, but what I mean is, you know, like you said, you had the Demons on that as very experimental.
Yeah,
and then this did feel like a very back to basics kind of story.
I don't think
and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
No, exactly. That's not a bad thing. It's just something I noticed, and you know, it does it really well. Although part of me thought to myself, I wonder if they're going to bring up a little mini kind of arc now, because obviously, you have the First Doctor confronting someone who's basically like, yes, we want to put you on crime, so what you're going to do in your future.
That's a
and
good
I always
point.
find that funny now when Big Finish now, because especially when you had Twice Upon a Time happen and you get the First Doctor's reaction to it, I always just thought that's really interesting to me. I like the fact they're bringing that in a little bit now, that people who have dealt with the Doctor in the future, or, you know, heard about the Doctor of what he'll do in the future, are now coming back to the First Doctor. And I thought I almost got a little bit disappointed we didn't kind of see that go further. Like, you know, the final.
Do you think it's to do with the 11th Doctor?
I think about that sometimes.
Because the 11th Doctor's era was basically about him becoming famous for getting involved, causing more damage.
I always got sort of like Time War vibes, or like used to Time War vibes, or kind of, you know, like 11th Doctor vibes around that kind of period. And it's why part of me would be very interested if it's like a sort of background arc where eventually this could culminate into something.
Well, what's also interesting for me is this going to be something where is the next volume going to not have Dodo in it?
Yes, that's a good question.
Because I ask because Dodo, the Doctor didn't even know how to fly the TARDIS himself, and Dodo certainly wouldn't know. So I wonder if, like, they're gonna do like where they pick up in the TARDIS. She's like, "Oh my god, what's going on?" And then the TARDIS just enters flight or something and is intercepted by something. Because this is also at the very beginning when the Doctor and the TARDIS's, I know it sounds weird when I say it like this, but the TARDIS's relationship and the Doctor's is still in its infancy as well. Like, they obviously, the TARDIS is just like, yeah, I wanted to go traveling, so I took you with me. But the TARDIS itself, they haven't made that bond that they've made across the hundreds of years.
No, again, it's why I love it when he still calls it the ship.
Yeah,
I love that detail. It feels a lot more, you know, it feels a lot less personal.
Well, yeah,
and it's why I like that. I love the development.
It's only in John Pertwee's era do we really start to hear it. The Second Doctor says the TARDIS, and never says really the ship that often. It's only with John Pertwee when he's trying to fix the TARDIS does he actually start calling her old girl, like as though he's fixing a car, in a way, and that kind of sticks from there.
but I'm hoping we see this expanded on in the future. I wouldn't mind I'm not saying like a whole volume, or like a trial for the first Doctor or anything like that.
I'm assuming that's where he's gone. By the way, when they're going, oh, where's he gone? Because he disappears at the end.
Yeah.
My theory is that he's just gone to that story. He's gone to his continuation because an agent tried to stop him and failed. So now the whole agency are getting involved.
It is confirmed he's in the 60th. So I wonder if they're going to tie into this in any way.
What, as in the reason why in that volume the last episode mentions crimes is because of what's going to happen in Once and Future?
Possibly.
That's not a bad shout.
Obviously, because obviously that's an idea, because I could see them doing a kind of Marvel style thing where in the build up they subtly do it, because it feels like they could have this tie it into the 60th, and then when they do the next First Doctor and Dodo box set, they could have it pick up in such a way where if you didn't listen to the 60th stuff, it'd still connect fine. But if you did listen to the 60th, it's a bonus, extra content. It's sort of like how you can go from, I know some people might not agree with this, because I know it's quite divisive among people, but you can watch The 10th Planet and go straight to Power of the Daleks, and it feels, cohesive. But if you also then go and listen, watch Twice Upon a Time, you get a bit extra, if that makes sense.
I get you. Yeah.
Yeah, so on the whole, we both really enjoyed this volume, and it's nice to talk about the First Doctor. But Connor, you have a little bonus you want to talk about.
Yes, indeed. I wanted to talk about the class audio that came out, The Secret Diary of a Rhodian Prince.
Dear reader, are you sitting comfortably? Great. In that case, let's begin. From Big Finish Productions, Class, Secret Diary of a Rhodian Prince.
I'm Charlie, by the way. I'm new around here. First day.
I was new here, but now you're new here. I'm not new anymore, so thank you. No one likes being the new boy.
Here lies the untold story of how the Rhodian Prince found himself alone, grieving the genocide of his people on a planet called Earth. You see, these are the juicy bits, the thoughts no one else gets to hear. I'm going to tell you about what it's like to be the only Rhodian on a planet full of aliens, about what it's like to be rescued by a mysterious Time Lord called the Doctor, about the really irritating habits of my lodger Quill, about how I met the love of my life Mateusz, and how I lost him. And finally, I'll tell you about Shadowkin, the Cabinet, and the Governors, because the Doctor brought me here for a reason. And this is the beginning of the end.
Should I have just let us die then, rather than use the cabinet? Is it not better to die with honor than become the very thing you despise?
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
I've not listened to a single class audio. I do mean to at some point, but at the moment, no. So
dare you?
Don't kill me again!
Oh dear. Oh dear.
We are in trouble, aren't we?
Yes. Well, this audio. The reason I want to give it an honourable mention is because I've really enjoyed what Big Finish have done with Class. I know that Class is quite divisive with people, but I love it. I really love it. I'm one of the few people left who still really enjoy it. But the reason I really enjoyed it was because it actually, and spoilers ahead, by the way, we see a bit of series 2 in that one.
Oh,
basically the volume, the one off they've done, they recorded back in August, and it's just him reading his diary, and then you've got Mateusz who starts reading some of it as well, and it's about his personal feelings about events that happen in series 1, about how going, we're not talking much because a comet landed in our classroom and now we hate one another, and all this sort of stuff, and then talks about like family who've lost one another and how things have changed because of April, basically stuff that happened in series 1. But then the voice of the governor speaks. You know, the man who was, you know, with the captain in Sarah Jane's Adventures. He speaks reading the diary. And they allude to all the things that they're going to do, and they say that they're going to help fix April. They've got a way to do it, but the people will, you know, the stars of class now owe them and work for them. And I'm like, good, very good. Yes, very good. And I'm hoping that there's more to come, because that's the furthest past series 1 that we've seen, that there's now a resolution to that cliffhanger. But they've also teased so much in that. It was a really nice re-listen to series 1, essentially. With the first 4 box sets that they've done, they're all set in between events for series 1, but then there's been like nearly a 3-year gap for Class Audios. They just didn't do anything more. There's nothing more you can do without saying that series 1 was really crammed. You know what I mean? It didn't work after a time.
When you get given a time frame, you can only fit so much into it.
Exactly, and trying to work it around to the different seasons of the year, which each episode, you know, obviously reflected upon. This one was always going to be difficult to work out. Ultimately, I still think they did a really, really good job with this audio and with the audios they've made so far. But I'm really, really hopeful that they make they actually progress on to making extra content similar to what they've done with Torchwood, with the story continues with series 5 and 6, and now obviously 7's coming out soon. But yeah, it's a really nice story. I hope they make more. George, were you a fan of Class when it came out?
Not particularly, but not because I didn't think it had potential. I just think tonally, I'll be honest, I never finished the series, so I never given like a full opinion on it because obviously
dare you. This is not a good segment for you this month.
Why do you bully me?
No.
No, because here's the thing. I watched the first 2 episodes, and I think it just wasn't appealing to me at the time. I think mainly because
you should give it another chance.
No, I think I will, because again, I never finished it. It's why I never go to people, oh, I know it's awful. I never watched enough of it for me to genuinely go, no, this is bad. I know. But I remember the first episode put me off because I think, and don't remember, from a marketing perspective, I get why you do this. I think having Capaldi in it was such a bad idea. And I love the 12th Doctor, but it just felt you're going for this much darker, grittier show. And then also the 12th Doctor shows up. And I always had this weird moment of, the 12th Doctor's there, and I'm looking, there's a guy who's just lost his leg.
I love that.
The 12 Doctors be the thing is cool.
This is where we differ, because I feel like in the Moffat era they've been too safe with Doctor Who for a while. So I loved the fact that we finally got to see the Doctor with a guy covered in blood who's lost a leg. That what you're saying that you didn't like is what I adored.
The thing is, I can't explain it because I like mixing tones, but there's just something about the way they handled it that felt off. I think it's because, to me, now don't get me wrong, I'm like you. It's why I love the expanded media stuff, especially like some of the novels, where they really go dark. And I love that. But I think, to me, the issue I had was because there was no status quo yet, it just felt a bit like a mess tonally. It felt like, oh, Capaldi's here to be like, hey, look, this is Doctor Who. I said what would have been really good is if you had, the hints about the Doctor, with Quill being like, hey, is it Quill? I'm not sure where it is.
How dare you?
I got it right. Basically being, the mentor kind of figure. And also you can still get the hint of, because of the Doctor and all this. And then you give it like 2-3 episodes, get yourself a status quo going, and really let yourself establish the show. Then have Capaldi appear like midway through or something. That's how we've done it. Because again, we could have got the mixture.
Though, if he'd come in 3 episodes in, would the characters wouldn't it have been going backwards? Because they needed they needed the Doctor in that moment because they didn't know what they were doing.
It's tricky. I see because also I'm like I said, it need a fair bit of reworking if you were to do it the way I'm suggesting. Because obviously when I watched the first episode, I went, they were building to needing this, but I can't explain why. But it's to me, it's like if you put the Doctor in the first ever episode of the Sarah Jane Adventures.
It's different. I think it's different, vastly different. And of course, I'm going to say that. But the thing is, Class, no one knows these characters. They don't know who they are. Sarah Jane, if the Doctor had to come in to save Sarah Jane, there would be an issue because this is Sarah Jane Smith.
Okay, no, I'm willing to agree with that. I'm definitely willing
why does Sarah Jane
need that?
Yeah, Sarah Jane never needed saving. The only time that she was ever, the only time she might like in Ark in Space, where she's like, I don't need your help. And everything like that. It's like she's saying to the Doctor, and like she's always like, "Oh yeah, wonderful, yes, nice, be sexist then," and all this sort of stuff. Like she's just like not having it. She'd never she'd probably be more annoyed that the Doctor stepped on her turf. You know what I mean? Like what are you doing here? Go away. That literally that sort of level.
I get what you're saying, and I think what I've given is definitely a bad example because
I
agree.
I agree with what you're saying though about how having the Doctor save the day can seem and appear to be like, why should we trust any of these characters? They couldn't even handle it. But that's because they weren't introduced to aliens before. The Doctor showing up and saving the day was literally them getting lucky, and now he's like, cool. Now you've watched me do it. You do it.
I think for me, it's because you had like a character like Quill. So to me, I watched it and went, you could have obviously would have had to change some bits, but you still could have gotten around it without the Doctor. Because I'm like I said, as much as what I've said earlier about Capaldi coming in and making the tone feel weird, may not seem like I like it when tone mixes. No, I like darker stuff, and I'm like sometimes I do think it'd be great if, to an extent, how if Doctor Who went a bit of the way like the Harry Potter movies, where they start off quite childish and then grow as the audience do. That you got like substantially darker. I would love Doctor Who to be darker. Me and you have both discussed the idea of a really like body horror cyber conversion, stuff like that, or a body horror regeneration and stuff. And I want these darker elements in the show, but I just think for me, I've always been like, it should have. I don't know. I would have liked them to have some build up, but I get what you mean. They're not established characters, so having the Doctor appear does, help in that sense. So
I think because as well as that, because of that, Class was hyped up weirdly in social media and didn't get enough viewership in. It was going, everyone hyped it up as we're this is a big thing, new Doctor Who spin-off, Class. And everyone was like, what? And I think that's why they knew they had to do it. But
I could definitely understand that.
But nonetheless, we've now got into the series of Class, and we're in Big Finish discussions.
So here's the thing. So here's the thing then. So as someone then who has said from what he's seen, he wasn't the biggest fan of Class, and yes, I will definitely. Heck, that could be something.
I think if you're going to start with anything, you don't have to worry. You don't think I have to listen to 4 volumes and 1 audio. Listen to the recent one. That's a recap of series 1 generally. You can rewatch the series. You can start again with series 1. But I think, honestly, you could listen to this audio Secret Diary of a Rhodian Prince and kind of get what was going on.
But my thing is then, because a lot of people who aren't a fan of Class, would you say the audios are still worth a listen? Like, would you say it's
the audios enhance the characters a lot better? But I think it's not because the original writers weren't good. It's because they had series 1 to work with. If you're going to rewatch series 1 of Class, just know that you stopped at what, episode 2?
Yeah.
Episode 4 is when it finds where it is. The first 3 episodes were all over, but episodes 4 to 8, it knows exactly what it is.
Here's the thing, I'll say this. I definitely got the impression with the show that it if you had given this series more time, if it had like another season or two, we probably definitely would have seen like some big things. So I'm not writing this out as it didn't deserve it. I just think at the time I was watching and I went, this is for me. I might come back to it one day. So who knows? Maybe that will be a thing we'll see. I'll come back to it one day and we'll document it.
It's more of a coming of age kind of show. A lot of people are going, it's like Torchwood, but with Sarah Jane elements. It's like you can't look at it like that. Of course, it's the third spin-off. It's been going to be looked at like that, but you can't do that with this. You can't look at it. Yes, it's got stuff about like it's teenagers becoming adults and finding themselves who they are in life as they become adults, but also finding out who they are sexually as well. Like it's and it talks about depression. It talks about loss. There's this really, I mean, I don't know if you remember it from the trailer when April's saying, "I'm not made of glass." Because of what happens in episode 1, do you roughly remember what happens to April with the Shadow King?
Yes.
Everyone starts treating her like completely differently, and she goes into this depression. And it's what's so great. It just felt like, because I didn't like the Moffat era. I think I've made that no secret. But for me, I didn't like the Moffat era. I don't think characters were really characterized properly. This show made Earth feel like Earth. And made thinking these people. I've seen Capaldi walk with these people, talk to these people, and they still talk like people at the end of it. Thus, I could believe who they were, and that it made me decide to watch Series 10 because I wasn't going to originally. Because I thought, well, okay, this has actually set that up, and a lot of people thought that Knock Knock was going to be with the Class team for a while because it did get cancelled and they thought it was going to be brought up in the show. But no, that also, by the way, they do also mention. Oh no, you must know the ending of Series 1.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen the ending.
Yeah, with the surprise villain appearance.
Yeah,
they mention that at the end of this audio as well.
Oh, okay.
They mention the arrival, and I'm like, and they go, the angels are still working on the arrival, and I'm like, good, yes, good. But the way that Big Finish do Class isn't that because they've got.
I'm sorry, I just love this so much. I'm going, the angels are working on your arrival. You're just like, oh yes, focus, brothers.
Well, I for a while have always sort of sat and wondered. I wonder if I should continue it. I'm glad I didn't, but nonetheless, I'm glad it is looking like they're aiming to get it continued. As another side note, by the way, I'm moving on to a different thing now, just as a quick side note. I'm not going to talk about it that much. Moving on from Class, I want to quickly mention that the fact that technically, obviously, it's now just gone midnight as we're recording this, but it's technically the day that Doctor Who Excellis got re-released after 21 years.
Yes.
The cover art for it looks amazing.
Oh, Doctor, it's me!
Oh, no.
Doctor Who Excellis dawns.
I am Greyvorn. I am a warlord of this region. And as the ice started to recede, I rode forth to the highest mountain in the world, Excellis. Let me try to give you an idea of what Arteris was like in those days. Anyone who was anyone lived high up on the perilous mountainsides. The verminous folk of these mountaineers breathed the thin, poisonous air and went gently mad.
There is nothing the likes of these primitives can do to you. The beloved relic was placed into your hands. You cannot let the likes of these people take it from you. The Warlord.
Come on out, Mother Superior. I, Lord Greyvorn, have returned to inspect your progress.
The Hag.
I can't remember properly. I can't remember properly at all.
The Nun.
Tell me, Mother Superior, what are we going to do with her?
Oh, Sister Jolie, you've discovered me doing one of my favourite things.
And the Ancient One.
I've seen this kind of thing before. And when they find it, it just turns out to be a statuette or a vase, and everyone goes home disappointed.
As it was foretold. They will not defy us. The beloved will never be theirs.
It's one of the first Big Finish full volumes I listened to. It wasn't the first Big Finish I ever listened to. The first one I ever listened to was in 2013, was Light at the End. That was the first one I ever listened to for the 50th. And I then started with 8, Storm Warning, and went my way down there. But my first full volume, full storyline I completed was Excelis, with 5, 6, 7, and also Bernice. So it's got a special place in my heart for that. And of course, with it also having Anthony Head as well, when he was called Anthony Stewart Head at the time. It's really good. It's been re-released. They've also included a lot of really nice behind-the-scenes packages with it, because I actually repurchased it to give support for it, and it's got a lot of really nice behind-the-scenes packages with it as well. I just wanted to mention that on the side, just because I really enjoyed it. I know that you've not really heard it, have you?
No, I haven't. I was literally like, yeah, I know you're gonna how dare you me again, but yeah, I haven't. The thing is, I always keep meaning to pick them up, but I always want to get them as a set, and for a while I couldn't.
So you're saying that you haven't heard it?
No, I've not heard it.
How?
Are you gonna finish that
Dare
sentence?
you?
If we ever release merch, it just needs to be you, like the Phoenix Wright objection thing, but with you just pointing, going, "How dare you?"
No, I mean, the thing is, Excelis is a very niche story. It's one of the earliest volumes they ever made.
For a while, I couldn't get it. I don't know why. For some reason, I had issue downloading it because I wanted to get it.
The reason why is because of the rights to the photos of Sylvester McCoy.
Was it McCoy?
They have supplied the original cover art with it, but I get the feeling it took a lot of talking together because they had to make a new one.
That's why, because every time I'm like, cool, I'm gonna pick these up, because I saw Anthony Head and I saw like a story that featured, like, well, an arc, I'll say, 3 different doctors and stuff. I was like, I want this, I want to get this, and I couldn't download it. So I do have reasons why I haven't heard it yet.
What I will say is, as well, do you want to know how old these stories are?
They're definitely, aren't they, like, the show coming back?
They are so old that the first 2 cover arts that you get, because there's 3 stories. It's Excelis Dawns, Excelis Rising, and then Excelis Decays.
Yes.
The last 2, being Rising and Decays, are in full quality. Dawns has at the end of the title for it says _scanned. The cover art is so old that it doesn't exist digitally.
Jesus.
So the version I've got is a digital copy, but you can see the difference in quality. I'll send it to you in a minute, the cover art, so you can see what I mean. But you can see the sharpness on it and everything like that, and how different it is. That's how old it is. I believe, if I might have a look up whilst we talk about it, but I believe Excelis came out. It didn't come out all in one go originally. Excelis Dawns came out in February 2002. Excelis Rising came out in April 2002. Then Decays came out in July. So it didn't come out all in one go. It was it was very much a sporadic 3-parter, and then they had the Bernice Summerfield one come out in the same month as Decays.
Yeah.
But you can actually still download it, apparently. They've put it back onto download. Also, fun fact for you, by the way, do you remember who Anthony Head plays?
Do you mean in terms of the audio, or
in terms of the audio, like what his name is? Do you remember that, or are you not really sure?
No, I'm not sure.
He plays a man called Lord Sutton.
Sutton!
Even more reason to listen to it, folks.
He's everywhere. Oh my! Anthony Head was Fraser Ward before Fraser Ward was a thing.
Yeah.
He is if James went to the dark side.
Yeah. But when you look at it as well, when you look at the recording sessions for it, oh god, I'm looking at all the behind the scenes photos they've got. They recorded it in November 2001. Wow. Anyway, thank you all for listening to the Big Finish discussion.
Yes, the Big Finish / class discussion.
Indeed. Thank you very much for listening. And
thank you for not killing me.
Well, There is always time. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. It is myself and Eamon here at the conclusion of the podcast, no less.
Yeah.
And and then we were talking about in the Big Finish discussions. We were talking about the latest First Doctor box set, the Demon Song, and then obviously you had to mention a little bit of class, of course.
No, I've got just a little bit of class. Just a little bit of class. Just a little bit.
I knew you were going down this route. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit of class.
It's just maybe a little bit more.
Maybe a little bit more class.
Indeed. Was there anything you wanted to talk about specifically as we are at the conclusion, Eamon? Are you satisfied and feeling that we have fulfilled our monthly obligation for a wonderful podcast?
No, I think that's about it.
Oh, very good. Well, indeed. Well, anyway, thank you all for listening.
Yes, thank you for listening to this, people who are listening.
And of course, as of
Thomas, know what to do.
Okay. So when okay, well, why do you keep saying that? Throwing me off. So anyway, just to recap, Torchwood Nexus will be coming out on the 11th of March, followed by the rest of the volume leading up to the 1st of April, which of course the 1st of every month is when a new Divergence episode is out. So yes, we may even talk a little bit. We may even talk a little bit about it.
Wonderful.
Yes, indeed. And yes, of course, the trailer's already out. Yes. So, I bid thee a farewell.
Farewell, everyone, and probably not Cheddars. I'll keep talking to Cheddars, but farewell, everyone else. I'm waving if you didn't see, because it's a podcast. You didn't see.